Chapter 2390. Altar Roar. The tall, evil spirit let out a roar, and suddenly took a step forward. Every step it took caused the ground to tremble. Zhuowen, who was prepared this time, easily dodged the evil spirit's attack. He stood on the evil spirit's head with his sword and sent it flying. The head was sent flying, and the evil spirit knelt on the ground, completely motionless. The tortoise looked at Zhuowen in surprise and said, "Have you fought with evil spirits before? How do you know that the evil spirit's weakness is its head?" Zhuowen smiled faintly and declined to comment. It was the first time he had encountered an evil spirit. However, when he was in the skeleton realm, he had encountered an undead spirit similar to this one. Back then, the undead spirit's weakness was its head. Only by sending its head flying could the undead spirit be completely killed. Since this evil spirit was similar to the undead spirit, Zhuowen decided to give it a try. He succeeded. Thump, thump, thump. At the same time Zhuowen killed the evil spirit, the sound of dense footsteps came from all around. Then, in the rolling black fog, figures vaguely appeared. Needless to say, these figures were all evil spirits. Zhuowen, follow my instructions. There are many evil spirits in the Death Valley. You can't kill all of them. Go directly to the core altar of the Death Valley, the tortoise said quickly. Zhuowen nodded and immediately took out the space-time wheel. Together with the tortoise, he took out the Thunder Fire Sword and the Blood Immortal Sword at the same time and let the two guys deal with the evil spirits around them. The space-time wheel was extremely fast. Although evil spirits often jumped up in the surroundings, intending to completely stop Zhuowen, they were basically blown away by the Thunder Fire Sword and the Blood Immortal Sword in advance. Of course, Zhuowen also assisted the Thunder Fire Sword and the Blood Immortal Sword. After all, the deeper they went, the more evil spirits there were. Fortunately, these evil spirits were not very strong. Although Zhuowen was a little tired, he managed to hold on. Sword Dragon slashes the sky. Zhuowen slashed out with his sword. Terrifying sword chi condensed into 9 sword dragons that shot out in 9 directions. Immediately, the surrounding evil spirits were reduced to dust by the 9 sword dragons. Unfortunately, these evil spirits were like cockroaches that could not be killed. The evil spirits at the back leaped forward one after another as if they did not care about their lives. There are too many evil spirits. How far is that place? Xiao He could not help but roar. Zhuowen looked at the turtle, and the turtle looked ahead. It said in a deep voice, "We're almost there. All the evil spirits in Death Valley are gathering here. I'm afraid that Rakshasa King knows that we're here." These evil spirits were all summoned by that guy. Zhuowen, can you still hold on? Zhuowen looked ahead and found that the altar was indeed not far away. However, there were so many evil spirits in this place that it made one's hair stand on end. Every evil spirit was crowded together, and there was almost no gap to speak of. Not far from the altar, countless evil spirits were piled up together, forming a very tall hill. These evil spirits were all inside, and they were all bearing their fangs and claws at Zhuowen. "Damn, there are too many of them. Kid, what should we do now?" Xiao He asked Zhuowen while blocking the evil spirits around him. It was also a little scared, as there were too many evil spirits. Zhuowen took a deep breath and pointed with his right finger. Suddenly, countless ripples spread out, and these ripples transformed into a boundless sea. At the end of the sea, a waning sun rose. The waning sun quickly rose to its peak, and a terrifying power radiated and exploded around the sea. Then, countless evil spirits that were close to the sea were all blasted into dust by this power. Moreover, this power was continuous. The evil spirits that pounced at Zhuowen were all shattered before they could even get close. Rumble. At this moment, the space-time wheel had already arrived in front of the small hill of evil spirits. Countless evil spirits were being destroyed. But because there were too many of them, although these evil spirits were constantly being destroyed, there was still a large number of evil spirits that pounced at Zhuowen through the corpses of other evil spirits. Zhuowen's eyes were cold. He pointed with his right hand again, and the waning sun that had risen to its peak suddenly fell. Its speed was so fast that it instantly arrived in front of Zhuowen. The huge waning sun slammed heavily on the evil spirit mountain. Then a terrifying ripple exploded, and the huge evil spirit mountain was smashed into dust. All the evil spirits inside were annihilated into nothingness. Not only that, but the evil spirits that were constantly rushing over were also destroyed by the aftermath of the waning sun. At this moment, Zhuowen, dressed in white, was standing on the space-time wheel. Around him was a vast sea formed by the space-time power. Above his head was the waning sun, making him look like a god. Zhuowen jumped down and landed in front of the altar. The altar's layout was very simple and looked ordinary. On the contrary, the 9,998 death candles that were arranged around the altar were extremely spectacular. The candle flames on these death candles were connected to each other, forming a circle of black flame. It looked like a person's black eye. However, to the north of the death candle, there was a gap where one of the death candles was missing. Zhuowen knew that the gap should be the position of the death candle in his hand. Quickly place the death candle on that gap, the turtle hurriedly said. Zhuowen nodded and did not dare to be negligent. He took a step and came to the gap in the north of the death candle. He took out the death candle and planned to place it on the gap. Just as Zhuowen placed the death candle on the gap, a dignified, cold snort sounded, like countless muffled thunder exploding in his mind. Zhuowen's body stiffened, and his eyes revealed a confused look. Then a big black hand stretched out from the altar and grabbed at Zhuowen's head. "Zhuowen, wake up quickly!" Not far away, the turtle naturally saw this scene and hurriedly sent a message to Zhuowen through divine sense. Unfortunately, Zhuowen seemed to be in a daze and did not move at all. It was as if he was quietly waiting for the big hand to grab him. "Pucci!" Zhuowen suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood, and the confusion in his eyes completely disappeared. At this moment, the big black hand had swept in front of Zhuowen and could completely grab Zhuowen's head in the next moment. Zhuowen summoned the phagocytosis, and at the same time used the space-time ability Waning Sun on the sea again. The waning sun rose again, and the terrifying power of the waning sun was like an explosion, constantly erupting above the big black hand, causing the big black hand to stagnate for a moment. Relying on this moment of stagnation, Zhuowen immediately placed the death candle in the gap. Whoosh! The moment the death candle was placed in the gap, the circle of death candles suddenly connected, and then a terrifying black flame erupted from the 9,999 death candles. Chapter 2391. Abyss of Hell, Bastard. Alchemy Emperor Turtle, you've ruined my plans. When I come out, I'll never let you off. An evil voice suddenly erupted from the altar. Then Zhuowen's pupils shrank as he discovered that an extremely terrifying force was surging out from the altar. It instantly broke through the black flames, intending to leave the range of the death candle. Unfortunately, even though the power was forceful, the black flames that were transformed from the 9,999 death candles were so fearsome that they forcibly blocked the fearsome power. Zhuowen was shocked when he saw this scene. Although the force inside the altar was blocked by the black flames, it was still not enough. However, even through the black flames, Zhuowen could still feel the terror of this power. If he had to face this force, Zhuowen knew that he would definitely die. The terrifying force and the altar struggled in the black flames for a full 10 breaths of time. After discovering that it could not break through the black flames, it roared and drilled back into the altar. Just a little bit more, and I'll be able to get out. Alchemy Emperor Turtle and you, Human Cultivator, if I, Luosha King, have the chance to get out, both of you will die miserably. A mournful voice kept coming from the altar. Obviously, Luosha King was not willing to give up. Zhuowen sat on the ground, paralyzed. His face was extremely pale. Using the waning sun over the sea twice had consumed too much of his energy. After consuming the heavenly starry sky essence, he had to recuperate well. Moreover, after the altar was resealed, the surrounding evil spirits also dispersed and wandered aimlessly in Death Valley. This altar was the core of Death Valley. Zhuowen would not be in danger here. After all, the greatest danger was Luosha King. Since Luosha King had been resealed in the Death Candle, the other evil spirits would definitely not dare to approach this place. Therefore, this place was the safest. Zhuowen stayed here for 3 days. By swallowing divine elixirs and heavenly domain starry pith, he had almost recovered from his injuries. Zhuowen stood up and looked around. He couldn't help but look at the turtle next to him and asked, "I heard that Death Valley is full of dangers. Even Void Sky 9 Steps cultivators would die there. But why don't I feel any danger?" The tortoise lay on the ground and said indifferently, "That's because of me. I gave you the safest route. Although you are strong, without this safe route, you would have died without a doubt." The safest route? Zhuowen's pupils shrank. He knew the safe route that the tortoise had mentioned, and he had worked hard to reach this place. If it wasn't for his space-time god art, he would have been torn to shreds by the countless evil spirits. It was hard for him to imagine if he could reach the core area of Death Valley if he encountered the other dangerous routes mentioned by the tortoise. And you know what? The real danger of Death Valley isn't these evil spirits, but the hell abyss that can be seen everywhere in Death Valley. The hell abyss is distributed around Death Valley, and it doesn't appear at a fixed time. Once you fall into the hell abyss, even a life-enlightening realm cultivator will die without a burial place. Although a life-enlightening realm cultivator might be able to escape danger, it's still a disaster. The tortoise sneered. When Zhuowen heard this, he was even more moved. It seemed that he had really taken advantage of this time. If it wasn't for this tortoise, he wouldn't have been able to reach the core area of Death Valley. That Rakshasa King said that you are an Emperor Pill Tortoise and you know so much about Death Valley and even the Divine Pill Secret Realm. Are you related to the Master of the Divine Pill Secret Realm? Zhuowen asked in a deep voice. He didn't ask before because he didn't trust this tortoise. Moreover, his relationship with this tortoise hadn't reached that level yet. Now that he and this tortoise had experienced the sealing of Rakshasa King at the same time, their relationship had become much closer. Zhuowen knew that now was the best time to ask. As expected, the tortoise hesitated, but in the end it nodded and said, "If that's the case, then I'll tell you. I'm an Emperor Pill Tortoise. Back then, I followed my master, the Emperor Pill Fire, and the Emperor Pill Fire is the master of this divine Pill Secret Realm. And this Rakshasa King and Rakshasa King were both created by my master. Rakshasa is the product of evil spirits' evolution. There are countless evil spirits in Death Valley, and they usually kill each other. In the end, the strongest evil spirit will transform into a Rakshasa. But Rakshasa King is a different kind of existence. My master didn't expect that a monster like Rakshasa King would be born. Although Rakshasa King couldn't prove his Tao, his strength had reached the pinnacle of the life and death realm. He's much stronger than ordinary life and death realm cultivators. Moreover, Rakshasa King was arrogant and unruly. Because of my master's strength, Rakshasa King didn't dare to act recklessly. Later, when my master returned to this secret realm with serious injuries, Rakshasa King led an army of Rakshasa and evil spirits to besiege my master. In the end, my master defeated him and sealed him in Death Valley. When the Emperor Pill Tortoise said this, it was quite emotional. Emperor Pill Fire? Your master was also a Tao-confirming expert, right? And has your master fallen? Zhuowen asked tentatively. The Emperor Pill Tortoise shook its head and said, I'm not sure whether my master has fallen or not. After he sealed Rakshasa King, his whereabouts were unknown. He just asked me to guard this divine Pill, Secret Realm, and Death Valley before leaving. Zhuowen's eyes flickered. He once again thought of the Tao-confirming expert who was dismembered on the blood-stained cliff. Whether it was the mysterious head on the blood-stained cliff or the emperor pill fire, they were all Tao-confirming experts from ancient times, but their fates were so miserable. Could it be that something big happened in that ancient era, and all the Tao-confirming experts disappeared because of it? Do you know why your master was injured? And why haven't we seen any Tao-confirming experts in the 8 heavenly domains? It's as if they have disappeared. Zhuowen asked. The Emperor Pill Tortoise shook its head and said, "It's useless to ask me. I only gained sentience later, so I don't know what happened in that era. As for the 8 heavenly domains you mentioned, I have heard about them. But I remember my master saying that the 8 heavenly domains didn't exist in their era. The 8 heavenly domains appeared later." Zhuowen frowned. It seemed that the 8 heavens had even deeper secrets, especially regarding Tao-confirming powerhouses. This caused Zhuowen to ponder on a deeper level. Zhuowen sighed in his heart. He knew that his current level was still too low. Once his cultivation reached the 9 steps void sky, he would be able to come in contact with the lords of the 8 heavens. At that time, he would be able to learn the secrets of the 8 heavens. Moreover, he knew that although the lords of the 8 heavenly domains stood at the peak of the 8 heavenly domains, none of them were Tao-confirming experts. Even the Nadi Shiva domain Sakyamuni was not a Tao-confirming expert. At most, he was in the life and death boundary. In addition, Zhuowen wondered if the heaven-breaking essence of the 8 heavenly domains was really the heaven-breaking essence. Chapter 2392. Meeting Ma Yujia again. Are we going back the way we came? Zhuowen stood up and asked the alchemy emperor turtle. That path can only be entered, not exited, and I need to find something. Take me there. You don't have to be suspicious, because the place I'll take you to is the place where the life or death pill is about to appear, the alchemy emperor turtle said. Zhuowen's eyes lit up when he heard this, and he said, "Then you lead the way. I'll take you there." The alchemy emperor turtle nodded and was about to guide Zhuowen to the location of the life or death pill when its expression suddenly changed. "What's wrong?" Zhuowen could not help but ask when he noticed a change in the alchemy emperor turtle's expression. The alchemy emperor turtle's expression became serious. It took a deep breath and said, "Someone found the path I opened and came in." Zhuowen was surprised. Ever since Zhuowen and the alchemy emperor turtle entered the path, the entrance was covered by black fog. Ordinary cultivators could not find it at all. But now the alchemy emperor turtle directly said that someone had entered the path. This was really unbelievable. Who could see through the cover of the black fog? What should we do now? Should we leave or wait for that person to appear? Zhuowen asked. The alchemy emperor turtle took a deep breath and said, "I left a mark on the path, so I know that someone has entered it." Looking at the path, he seems to be very familiar with it. "I'm afraid he's coming for the altar. Let's wait here first." Zhuowen had no objection to the alchemy emperor turtle's suggestion. After the two found a hidden place, they used a powerful restriction formation to completely hide the place. Zhuowen also restrained his aura. After waiting like this for 2 hours, a figure appeared in Zhuowen's line of sight. This figure was very bloated. Obviously, it was a fat man. The fat man tiptoed closer to the altar and walked around it. He clicked his tongue in amazement and said, "There are actually 9,999 death candles here. That's quite a lot." When the fat man arrived at the north of the altar, his face was completely revealed to Zhuowen. When Zhuowen saw the fatty's face, he was surprised. He was not unfamiliar with the fatty. In fact, he was very familiar with him. "Do you know this person?" The Pill Emperor Turtle noticed Zhuowen's strange expression and asked. "Yes, I've met this person a few times," Zhuowen said ambiguously. The Pill Monarch Turtle nodded and said, "This person was able to discover that path, so he must be extraordinary. However, how many times have you met him? Are you a friend or a foe?" Zhuowen rubbed his forehead and said, We're neither enemies nor friends. I don't know what kind of relationship we have." The Pill Emperor Turtle glanced at Zhuowen with a slightly speechless expression. After that, it looked towards Ma Yujie, who'd stopped at the north of the altar, and said, "From the looks of it, he seems to be rather familiar with Death Valley. Why has he come to the altar?" Zhuowen shook his head and stared at Ma Yujie, who had stopped outside the altar seal. To be honest, he knew too little about Ma Yujie. When he released Ma Yujie from the ice tower, he didn't get any information or background from Ma Yujie. Ma Yujie put his hands behind his back and turned his back to Zhuowen. He seemed to be thinking about something. "I didn't expect there to be a seal in Death Valley. I wonder what's inside the seal? Let me try to break it," Ma Yujie muttered to himself. His voice was not soft, so Zhuowen and the Pill Emperor Turtle could hear him clearly. The Pill Emperor Turtle sneered. The 9,999 death candles were set up by its master, the Pill Emperor Flame. How could this fat man have the ability to break the seal? Of course, Ma Yujie naturally did not know that the Pill Emperor Turtle was secretly laughing at him. His gaze became solemn as he waved his sleeve and released several array flags. These array flags spread out and floated above the altar. They began to rotate rapidly. The altar was already surrounded by black flames, forming a black hemispherical light shield. It looked strange and strange. The array flag rapidly rotated, and soon after, it released a dark blue energy ripple. It suddenly rushed out and blasted on the black flame round cover. Bang! The terrifying black flame swept out and instantly turned into a big mouth. It completely swallowed the array flags in the sky. The temperature of the black flame was terrifying. The moment the black flame swallowed the array flags, the terrifying black flame melted them into nothingness. Hee, what an ignorant fool! In the dark, the Pill Emperor Turtle sneered. Its eyes were full of pride. Ma Yujie shook his head and said in surprise, "It's really terrifying. Which almighty person set up this seal? It's so terrifying. It's useless for me to continue. It's better not to try any more." Ma Yujie took dozens of steps back and avoided the black flame. He looked at the terrifying black flame in front of him in horror. "Let's go check out other places. This Death Valley is really strange." As Ma Yujie spoke, he left the altar and flew in another direction. Soon his figure disappeared. After Ma Yujie left, Zhuowen and the Pill Emperor Turtle came out. Looking in the direction Ma Yujie left, Zhuowen muttered in a low voice, "This guy is a little suspicious." What's suspicious about him? However, it's really unusual that he could enter that path. It's just that he overestimated himself. He actually tried to break the defense of the death candle. He's simply courting death. The Pill Emperor Turtle mocked. Zhuowen frowned slightly but did not laugh. Instead, he repeatedly checked the surroundings of the altar. After confirming that there was nothing wrong, he was relieved. "Let's go to the place where the life and death pill is," Zhuowen said to the Pill Emperor Turtle. The Pill Emperor Turtle nodded and said, "Now follow me." Not long after Zhuowen and the Pill Emperor Turtle left, a bloated figure slowly appeared from another place. Ma Yujie returned to the altar and looked in the direction Zhuowen and the Pill Emperor Turtle left. He narrowed his eyes and muttered to himself, "This Zhuowen is really a big problem. Wherever I go, he will follow. That Lu Haotian wouldn't want this kid for no reason. This kid must have something important on him. When the time comes, I'll have to inquire about it." After saying that, Ma Yujie's gaze fell on the altar again and said with a smile, "The Pill Emperor Turtle is really a genius. Although his strength is not very strong, his means are extremely amazing. He can actually create such an evil creature like the Rakshasa King." Boom! Suddenly, black energy gushed out from the altar inside the black flame and transformed into an illusory head. "Who are you? Did you just wake me up?" This illusory head was the Rakshasa King. Originally, the Rakshasa King was completely suppressed by the 999 death candle and fell into an unconscious state. Chapter 2393. Golden Horn Array Flags, Rakshasa King. I see that you really want your freedom, don't you? You've been here for countless years. It must be hard for you, right? Ma Yujia did not answer the Rakshasa King's question directly. Instead, he asked another question. The Rakshasa King said coldly, "You can try. You've been imprisoned here for countless years, and all you've done is make sarcastic remarks." Ma Yujia smiled and did not mind the Rakshasa King's tone. He continued, "I'll give you a chance to get out." The Rakshasa King did not believe him. He sneered. "These are 9,999 death candles. I spent countless years and barely managed to remove one of them. In the end, it was destroyed by that despicable human cultivator and the Pill Emperor Turtle. If you let me out, those two fellows will definitely kill me." Ma Yujia spread his hands and smiled subtly. "Of course, I'm not strong enough to break this seal, but you can. You're much stronger than me." The Rakshasa King sneered, but did not say anything else. He felt that this bloated fatty in front of him was spouting nonsense and was too lazy to answer him. "Haha, looks like you don't believe me. But it's no wonder. You spent so much time and still didn't see the seal's weakness. You just blindly tried to remove the death candles. Serves you right for being trapped here." Zhuowen smiled faintly. You really have a way." The Rakshasa King was interested. Ma Yujia did not say much. Instead, he waved his sleeve and immediately took out 12 array flags. The 12 array flags he took out this time were completely different from the ones before. They were completely golden, like dazzling and scorching suns. The array flags were as thin as golden paper, but they were filled with an unbearable light. 12 golden horn array flags? The Rakshasa King looked at the 12 glittering array flags in surprise and muttered softly. Ma Yujia waved his sleeve, and immediately the 12 golden array flags overlapped with each other. Golden energy gushed out, converging into a powerful golden stream that fiercely fell, heavily smashing onto the altar that was filled with black flames. The black flames naturally resisted without restraint. However, the golden stream was so powerful that it actually blasted a small gap in the black flames. Then, the golden stream quickly entered the black flames through the small gap. The golden stream that entered the black flames turned into 12 array flags again, and they were inserted in 12 directions around the altar. If one looked at it translation, one could see that the 12 array words translation, the 12 array flags editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. It's up to you whether you can escape or not. This is all I can help you with. Good luck. Ma Yujia glanced at the altar and the Rakshasa King, the altar and the altar. On translation, the Rakshasa King on is fire, fire, fire. Hee hee, Pill Emperor Flame. I bet you didn't expect the seal you set up to have such a big flaw. After I break the seal, I'll kill that Pill Emperor Tortoise and that human cultivator. Then I'll destroy your divine Pill Secret Realm. After that, I'll go out and kill all your Pill Emperor Flame bloodline. This is the abyss of hell? Zhuowen stood in front of a huge pit that was hundreds of meters wide. He looked at the huge pit in front of him in shock. The huge pit was very deep and dark. If one looked carefully, they could see strange black flames burning in the depths of the abyss. Zhuowen was no stranger to the aura of the black flames. It was the flame of the candle of death. It was a flame filled with the aura of death. Yes, the abyss of hell appears without any pattern. You must anticipate and take precautions in advance. Otherwise, you may not even know how you died. The Pill Emperor Turtle shook its head and said. Zhuowen nodded. Along the way, a huge pit that was hundreds of meters wide suddenly appeared on the originally flat ground. Fortunately, the Pill Emperor Turtle reacted in time and immediately asked Zhuowen to use the space-time wheel. In an instant, they left the hundreds of meters area, which allowed Zhuowen to escape from the disaster. When the hundreds of meters wide hole first appeared, Zhuowen couldn't move his body. His whole body trembled as if he had fallen into hell. If it weren't for the space-time wheel, Zhuowen wouldn't have been able to leave the abyss of hell. Now, Zhuowen finally knew why Death Valley was so dangerous and why even Void Sky 9 Steps experts could die here. It was all because of the unpredictable abyss of hell. Fortunately, the Pill Emperor Turtle was very familiar with Death Valley. Although it was difficult for him to know where the abyss of hell would appear, it could determine the location of the abyss of hell in advance. This ability to predict the abyss of hell provided Zhuowen with a lot of protection while walking in Death Valley. In Death Valley, it was inevitable to encounter some other evil spirits. However, these evil spirits were basically unorganized and weren't controlled by Rakshasa King like before. Therefore, they didn't pose much of an obstacle to Zhuowen. Under the guidance of the Pill Emperor Turtle, Zhuowen quickly arrived at the eastern edge of Death Valley. The life or death pill is about to appear here. I don't know the exact location, but when the life or death pill appears, I have a way to help you smoothly obtain it. Now let's leave Death Valley first, said the Pill Emperor Turtle. After saying that, the Pill Emperor Turtle formed a seal with both hands. A complicated pattern appeared on its shell and was reflected in the black fog in front of them. Then the black fog scattered. Let's go, said the Pill Emperor Turtle. Zhuowen took a step forward, grabbed the Pill Emperor Turtle, and rushed toward the path where the black fog appeared. Soon, they disappeared into the black fog. Not long after Zhuowen and the Pill Emperor Turtle left, Ma Yujie also arrived at the place shrouded in black fog. He squatted on the ground, pinched the black soil under his feet, and said with a frown, "That Pill Emperor Turtle really knows about Death Valley. The life or death pill should appear here. However, this thing isn't very useful to me." After saying that, the corners of Ma Yujie's mouth curled into a strange smile, and he muttered in a low voice, "I will soon get what I want. This life or death pill will be slowly fought over by those ignorant people." After saying that, Ma Yujie didn't follow the path Zhuowen took. Instead, he rushed in another direction of Death Valley and quickly disappeared. Zhuowen opened up a cave on a small hill 1,000 miles away from Death Valley. He planned to wait here for the birth of the life or death pill. Chapter 2394. Gathering in Death Valley, the Pill Emperor Turtle sneered. "What's the use of life and death pill for me? Do you think I'll be able to raise my cultivation like you cultivators after taking the life and death pill? Let me tell you, I'm not a cultivator like you. As for what it is, when the life and death pill comes out, you'll know. That thing is even more precious than the life and death pill. But let me say this first, that thing is mine. You can't snatch it from me." Zhuowen smiled and said, "Don't worry, I still have a bottom line. I only want the life and death pill. As for what you want, I won't touch it." In the following time, Zhuowen basically cultivated in his cave. His cultivation had reached the peak of Void Sky 7th Step by relying on many god pills. In the remaining time, he was basically consolidating his Void Sky 7th Step peak stage. Moreover, because he had just reached the peak of Void Sky 7th Step, his comprehension hadn't reached Void Sky 8th Step, so he couldn't break through to Void Sky 8th Step yet. Now, Zhuowen had enough resources. The only thing he lacked was comprehension of Void Sky 8th Step. Once he had enough comprehension, Zhuowen would be able to soar into the sky and smoothly reach Void Sky 8th Step. As time gradually passed, the monitoring formation Zhuowen secretly placed outside discovered that more and more cultivators were gathering in Death Valley. Because of the opening of the Divine Pill Secret Realm, the rumor of the life and death pill was extremely widespread. Therefore, most of the cultivators who entered the Divine Pill Secret Realm came for the life and death pill. Among them, there were many old Undyings who had been in seclusion for a long time. Most of these old Undyings' cultivations were stuck at half-step Void Sky 9th Step. They were only half a step away from reaching Void Sky 9th Step. These old Undyings had lived for a very long time. Although their cultivation might not have increased, they were extremely experienced and their strength was extremely terrifying. In the images sent by the monitoring formation, Zhuowen saw at least a dozen of these old undyings. Although these old undyings' cultivations were the same as Kuang Li's, they were much stronger. Strength and cultivation were two completely different concepts. The difference in cultivation was just a general comparison. Strength wasn't just a display of one's cultivation base. It depended on many aspects, such as powerful magic treasures, divine abilities, cultivation techniques, and so on. These old fogies had lived for a very long time, so they naturally had a lot of opportunities. They probably had a lot of trump cards on them, unlike Kuang Li and the old man from Lushan Temple, whose strength was average. They were very difficult to deal with. Of course, these powerful half-step ninth ascension cultivators were only in the second tier of this group of people. The ones who were truly at the first level were still the two life-comprehending realm experts, LV Haotian and Jingyin. At this moment, Jingyin was standing in front of Death Valley with the disciples of Desire Palace, Yao Xiangjuan and Zhu Rui. LV Haotian, on the other hand, stood alone on the other side. Compared to Jingyin, who was surrounded by many disciples, LV Haotian seemed lonely. The two formed a sharp contrast. Of course, the reason why LV Haotian was so lonely was because of Zhuowen. The people that Lu Haotian brought this time, including his own son, Lu Zhu, were all killed by Zhuowen. The more LV Haotian thought about this matter, the angrier he became. He wished he could kill Zhuowen right now. Unfortunately, when he tried to deal with Zhuowen, he let Zhuowen escape again and again. Moreover, he also paid a corresponding price. Jingyin narrowed her eyes and turned to look at LV Haotian with a trace of surprise on her face. Although she was blind, her divine sense was very powerful, so she could perceive things much more clearly than others. When LV Haotian arrived, she found that LV Haotian had suffered a serious injury. Moreover, this injury was not an old one, but a new one. He should have suffered it when he entered the divine Pill secret realm. But what Jingyin did not understand was that in the divine Pill secret realm, other than Death Valley, there was no threat to a life-comprehending realm expert like LV Haotian. Brother LV, did you encounter some trouble in the divine Pill secret realm? Anyway, waiting for the birth of the life or death pill was quite boring, so Jingyin asked the doubts in her heart. Hearing Jingyin's question, LV Haotian's face suddenly became ugly. He could not help but think of Zhuowen. He coldly snorted and said, "Palace Master Jingyin, you don't need to care about my affairs. I accidentally injured myself. It's not a big deal." Palace Master Jingyin was quite surprised. This LV Haotian seemed to have something difficult to talk about. What was it that made LV Haotian so embarrassed? On the other hand, there were quite a number of cultivators whispering in the crowd. Many people had clearly seen the scene of LV Haotian chasing after Zhuowen and fighting with Luo Sha. Speaking of which, many people admired Zhuowen. He was obviously only at the 7th level of the Void Sky realm, but not only was he not afraid of powerhouse like LV Haotian, but he was also quick-witted and set up layers of traps, making LV Haotian willingly fall into them. "Senior sister, I heard those people talking about LV Haotian's injury. It seems to be related to Zhuowen." In the group behind Jingyin, Zhu Rui whispered to Yao Xiangjuan beside her. Yao Xiangjuan's beautiful eyes flickered, revealing a trace of excitement and worry, but she soon calmed down and said with a complicated expression, "I really can't see through Zhuowen. I didn't expect him to be able to make LV Haotian like this." Zhu Rui also nodded repeatedly and said, "I really misjudged him. I originally thought he was just an ordinary 7th level Void Sky cultivator. I didn't expect him to be so strong and crafty." Yao Xiangjuan pursed her lips and smiled, but did not continue the topic. Instead, she was in a daze, thinking, where is Zhuowen now? Will he also come here to compete for the life or death pill? Paper can't wrap fire, and LV Haotian's matter also spread widely among the crowd. Palace Master Jing Yin also learned that LV Haotian was in such a sorry state because of Zhuowen. In her heart, she became even more curious about Zhuowen. It seems that Xiangjuan is right. Zhuowen is really not an ordinary person. Palace Master Jing Yin secretly said in her heart. LV Haotian coldly snorted and floated in the air, staring coldly at the crowd below. Suddenly, the noisy discussion quieted down. If you dare to slander this king again, believe it or not, I will destroy your families. That Zhuowen used despicable means to sneak attack me. Do you think I deserve it? LV Haotian said coldly, but what responded to him was a long silence. LV Haotian waved his sleeve and landed again, but his eyes were fixed on the Death Valley in front of him. Why is brother LV so angry? We should work together to find the life or death pill. This is just a trivial matter, Palace Master Jingyan said with a smile. LV Haotian didn't dare to be rude to Palace Master Jingyan. He nodded in agreement and said, Palace Master Jingyan is right. We only know that the life or death pill will appear in Death Valley, but we don't know where it will appear or when it will appear. Can we just wait like this? Chapter 2395. The birth of the life or death pill. Palace Master Jingyan's suggestion was immediately approved by LV Haotian. The rest of the people also had no objections. Palace Master Jingyan is right. We should spread out and search for it. The birth of the life or death pill won't be so simple. I also agree with Palace Master Jingyan's suggestion. Death Valley covers a large area. How can we gather in one place with so many people? Everyone chimed in one after another. Of course, the reason why they agreed like this was naturally because they considered their own interests. The birth of the life or death pill would inevitably cause a lot of competition. Most of the people here were not strong enough. Needless to say, Palace Master Jingyan and LV Haotian were very strong. Just a dozen or so half-step, void sky, ninth stage, old monsters alone were not something that most of the cultivators could contend against. When the time came, the competition would definitely be between the high-level experts. Most of the cultivators here would be reduced to cannon fodder. Now that the life or death pill had yet to appear, and they didn't know where it would appear, it gave the cultivators a chance to search for it. Everyone had a wishful thinking. In this kind of situation, everyone had the same chance of finding the life or death pill. Now, they didn't have to rely on strength, but luck. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. While everyone was discussing, many cultivators impatiently rushed to other places in Death Valley. Obviously, they didn't want to stay here any longer. Since there was a first person, there was naturally a second. Soon, the cultivators gathered in the eastern periphery of Death Valley scattered and rushed to other places in Death Valley. They didn't know if it was because LV Haotian and Palace Master Jingyan were here, but most of the cultivators deliberately avoided this place. They all knew that if the life or death pill appeared here, LV Haotian and Palace Master Jingyan would be the first to make a move. At that time, they wouldn't have a chance. However, if it appeared in other places, they would have a chance. Therefore, most of the cultivators deliberately avoided LV Haotian and Palace Master Jingyan. Even the dozen or so half-step void sky ninth stage cultivators did, so intentionally or unintentionally. They were also very afraid of Palace Master Jingyan and LV Haotian. Palace Master Jingyan, I'll also go look for the life or death pill. LV Haotian cupped his fists towards Jingyan and left. Let's also slowly search for it. The life or death pill should appear in the periphery of Death Valley. Palace Master Jingyan also instructed the disciples behind her. Soon after, she led everyone to patrol around the periphery of Death Valley. Inside the cave, Zhuowen looked at the pill monarch turtle and asked, "When will the life or death pill appear?" "Soon, in a few days. You don't need to rush out. The birth of life or death pill will cause a huge commotion in Death Valley. When that time comes, it will be very chaotic. You should wait patiently. Pill Emperor Turtle replied. Zhuowen nodded and no longer paid attention to Death Valley. Instead, he sat cross-legged on the ground, preparing to wait for the birth of the life or death pill before acting according to the circumstances. 5 days later, the black mist on the surface of Death Valley suddenly churned violently, as if something was about to be released from within. It was accompanied by chilling roars, which sounded extremely strange and terrifying. The numerous cultivators who were originally searching for life-death pills in the periphery of Death Valley also noticed the abnormality in Death Valley, and their eyes were filled with astonishment. Rumble! Suddenly, in the east of Death Valley, the terrifying black mist turned into a black pillar and rushed into the sky. On the surface of the black pillar, countless black mists were swirling and churning like tornadoes. It looked extremely terrifying. Moreover, the crowd also discovered that a white mist had appeared in the black pillar without them noticing. Moreover, the white mist was increasing in number, and it seemed to be on par with the black mist. Soon, the black pillar turned into a black and white pillar. At the top of the black and white pillar, a divine pill the size of a pigeon's egg slowly emerged. This divine pill was black and white. One side was white and the other side was black. The black and white pattern inside was very similar to the yin-yang fish in Taoism. Is this the life-death pill? In the cave, Zhuowen suddenly stood up. He withdrew the restriction formation of the cave and went to the entrance of the cave. He looked at the black and white pillar in the distance and the black and white divine pill floating at the top of the black and white pillar. Yes, this is the life-death pill. But I say you can't act rashly now. Otherwise, you will only suffer losses. Pill Emperor Turtle said with a slightly mocking smile. What do you mean? Zhuowen asked in surprise. You will know when you see it, Pill Emperor Turtle said as he pointed at the black and white pillar in the distance. Zhuowen looked in the direction that Pill Emperor Turtle was pointing at. He saw that beside the black and white pillar, many cultivators who were close to it were rushing madly toward the top of the black and white pillar. However, the moment these cultivators got close to the black and white pillar, their bodies suddenly stiffened. Then they were completely torn into pieces by the terrifying tearing force of the black and white pillar. The cultivators who had arrived late also planned to rush over. However, when they saw what was happening in front of them, they immediately stopped and looked at everything in horror. There's a very powerful force around the life-death pill. This is... Zhuowen's pupils shrank, and he couldn't help but say, just now, those cultivators who were close to the black and white pillars were all inexplicably torn into pieces. Even Zhuowen did not sense it. That is the life and death force emitted from the surface of the life-death pill. This life and death force is much weaker than the life and death divine force of an expert at the life enlightenment stage. But it is comparable to the mysterious life divine force of an expert at the life enlightenment stage. Cultivators who are not strong enough will simply be cannon fodder. Pill Emperor Turtle sneered and continued. Also, what kind of treasure is the life-death pill? It is not so easy to obtain. Zhuowen, you don't need to rush out now. You just need to stay here and watch the show. When it is time to attack, I will remind you. Zhuowen didn't speak. He looked deeply at the life-death pill floating on the black and white pillar in the distance and just nodded. The surging aura of the life-death pill had completely spread throughout the Death Valley. For a moment, it aroused the greed of countless evil spirits in the Death Valley. They all longed to obtain the life-death pill and obtain a new life. As a result, the evil spirits, wandering aimlessly in the Death Valley, rushed toward the east side of the Death Valley. None of them were afraid of death. Due to the appearance of the life-death pill, the gap in the east side of the Death Valley was opened. Those evil spirits rushed out of the Death Valley unimpeded. What are these things? Why are there so many of them? No, these are not humans. There are too many of them. Save me. No, these things can't be killed. Run. Chapter 2396. Evil Spirit Army. In an instant, the Evil Spirit Army began to fight with the cultivators gathered outside Death Valley. For a time, the sounds of fighting were like thunder, constantly resounding outside Death Valley. Zhuo narrowed his eyes as he looked at the countless evil spirits rushing out. He hadn't expected that the birth of the life or death pill would attract so many evil spirits. Moreover, it had even opened a gap in the eastern Death Valley. Death Valley was very large, and the number of evil spirits in it was extremely terrifying. The evil spirits Zhuo encountered in order to enter the altar in the core area were terrifying enough. But that was only a small part of the evil spirits in Death Valley. This time, the birth of the life or death pill triggered an even larger tide of evil spirits. One must know that Zhuowen's original route was the safest, but now the life or death pill had summoned all the evil spirits in the eastern part of Death Valley. Zhuowen shook his head. He knew that most of the cultivators around Death Valley were going to suffer. The evil spirits weren't weak, and there were even more terrifying evil spirits among them. Coupled with such a large number of evil spirits, the cultivators gathered in Death Valley couldn't stop them at all. Sure enough, the battle between the evil spirits and the cultivators only lasted for half an hour, and the cultivators couldn't stand the increasing evil spirit army in front of them. They all took out their respective flying divine tools and fled this place. Although the life or death pill was precious, compared to their lives, the latter was naturally more important. Brother Lu, let's work together. Otherwise, none of us will get the life or death pill. Palace Master Jingyan waved her jade-like hand, and a bright red flower appeared from her spirit ring. This red flower wrapped Yao Xiangjuan and the other disciples of the Desire Palace, and then it was taken into the palm of Palace Master Jingyan. Now that Death Valley was in danger, Palace Master Jingyan naturally didn't dare to let her disciples take risks outside. Not far away, Lu Haoyan, who was repelling many evil spirits, also heard Palace Master Jingyan's proposal. He thought for a moment and nodded. These evil spirits won't affect the two of us much. It's mainly the life and death force around the life or death pill that can only be broken by you and me working together. Palace Mistress Jing Yun nodded. Although there were many evil spirits, she and Lu Haoyan were both life-comprehending realm experts. Their life force was as vigorous as the stars in the sky. These evil spirits had no special power to kill them. Of course, it was very difficult for cultivators below the 9th step of the Void Sky stage to injure a supreme expert at the life comprehension stage, because the vitality within the body of a life comprehension stage expert was far beyond the imagination of all cultivators. Back then, the reason why Zhuowen was able to injure Lu Haoyan was because of his space-time spirit technique. The powerful space-time divine ability was enough to threaten life comprehension realm powerhouses. If Zhuowen's cultivation was the same as Lu Haoyan's at the life enlightening realm, then just by relying on the spirit technique, Zhuowen would be able to kill Lu Haoyan in one move. Make your move! She stomped her foot and countless petals drifted down from her feet. These petals contained Palace Mistress Jingyan's powerful mysterious life force. Any evil spirit that wanted to jump up and attack her was basically blasted to smithereens the moment they touched the petals. Lu Haoyan didn't dare to be careless. He took out his purple halberd and kicked the end of the halberd with his right foot. Suddenly, the purple halberd turned into a purple light and quickly swept towards the black and white pillar. Lu Haoyan turned into a stream of light and followed closely behind the purple halberd. Wherever he passed, the evil spirits were all smashed to smithereens by the sharp edge of the purple halberd. After a while, Lu Haoyan and Palace Mistress Jing Yun arrived in front of the black and white pillar. The moment Lu Haoyan and Palace Mistress Jing Yun arrived at the black and white pillar, the 12 half-step Void Sky 9-step Old Undyings reached an agreement and joined forces to compete for the life or death pill with Lu Haoyan and Palace Mistress Jing Yun. We must join forces. Fellow Taoists are all rare geniuses. All of you have cultivated to the peak of the void sky 9 step and have already touched the threshold of the life comprehending realm. None of you are ordinary half-step void sky 9th step experts. If we join forces, we might not be weaker than Lu Haotian and Palace Mistress Jingyan. Among the 12 people, a red-clothed old man said to the others with a sharp gaze. The red-clothed old man was called the Begonia Old Man, and he had the highest prestige among the dozen or so people. This was because the Begonia Old Man was the expert closest to the life-comprehending realm. Moreover, this Begonia Old Man had many trump cards, and he was also proficient in the Chimin Duanjia technique. Most importantly, the Begonia Old Man had once fought with a life-comprehending realm expert. Although he was defeated, he relied on his powerful trump cards to forcibly escape from the life-comprehending realm expert's sure kill attack. The Begonia Old Man is right. We must join forces. Otherwise, the life or death pill will definitely be snatched by Lu Haotian and Palace Mistress Jingyan. At that time, it will be like drawing water with a bamboo basket. A black-clothed man echoed. With 2 people taking the lead, the other 10 people nodded. None of them could compete with Lu Haotian and Palace Mistress Jingyan. However, if they joined forces, they might have a chance. Let's go. Let's go, the Begonia Old Man said. Then he led the other 11 people to ride the wind and break the waves. They exterminated countless evil spirits and arrived in front of the black and white pillars. Lu Haotian and Palace Mistress Jingyan naturally saw the Begonia Old Man and the other 12 people. Their eyes revealed a dignified expression. They didn't put any of the 12 people in their eyes. However, if they joined forces, they had no choice but to take them seriously. Begonia Old Man, you better not attack us. Otherwise, none of us will get the life or death pill. Lu Haotian turned his head and said to the Begonia Old Man and the others. The 12 people stopped. Among them, the Begonia Old Man said coldly, Lu Haotian, what do you mean by this? Feel it yourself. Lu Haotian pointed at the black and white pillars in front of him helplessly. The Begonia Old Man took a step forward and came in front of the black and white pillars with doubts. He stretched out his right hand, but it was immediately repelled by a force. Not only is there the life or death force, but there is also a powerful seal. This seal is very powerful. The Begonia Old Man took a few steps back and forcibly suppressed the surging blood in his body. If you want to get the life or death pill, the first step is to break the seal. Otherwise, everything will be in vain. Palace Mistress Jingyan said coldly, You mean we should join forces? The Begonia Old Man asked in a deep voice. Palace Mistress Jingyan said indifferently, Otherwise, what do you think we can do? After we get rid of this seal, the ownership of the life or death pill will depend on our own abilities. The Begonia Old Man fell into silence. After a while, he said in a deep voice, Okay, we can join forces with you to break this seal. The Begonia Old Man knew that this was indeed the only way. If they started to fight among themselves before they even saw the life or death pill, then no one would have the chance to get the life or death pill. You all join forces and focus on breaking the seal. I will take care of the evil spirits behind. The black-clothed man on the Begonia Old Man's side volunteered, once again. Then I will trouble you. Palace Mistress Jingyan nodded. Chapter 2397. Snatching the life and death pill. Everyone, don't hold back. Let's attack together. After Lu Haotian finished speaking, the purple halberd in his hand suddenly blasted out. A terrifying purple energy spread out and smashed onto the seal as if it could shatter the stars. Palace Master Jingyan followed closely behind. She formed a seal with her jade-like hands and pointed at the air. Then, the red energy turned into a huge flower tree. As soon as the flower tree appeared, countless petals fell down. The petals grew more and more and turned into a sea of flowers. The terrifying sea of flowers was like a red flood that suddenly burst out and blasted onto the seal. The moment LV Haotian and Palace Master Jingyan attacked, Elder Haitang and the others also attacked without holding back. The terrifying attacks blasted onto the seal, causing it to shake violently. The surface of the black and white pillar was even more distorted under the terrifying power. The explosive force spread out and radiated in all directions. Wherever it passed, many evil spirits directly exploded, dying as they could not be more dead. However, there were too many evil spirits. Although many of them died, there were still more evil spirits coming from behind. This increased the pressure on the black-clothed man. The black-clothed man was not an ordinary person. Although it was difficult for him to resist, he still managed to hold on and keep the evil spirits outside. Boom! Boom! The sounds of explosions continued to ring out. Every time there was an explosion, a terrifying wave of energy ripples would spread out. Crack! Finally, a cracking sound came from the restriction on the surface of the black and white pillar. Cracks began to appear on the surface of the black and white pillar, and the cracks became denser and denser as they spread out. Seeing the cracks on the seal, Palace Master Jingyan and the others were all shaken. They all worked hard to release their energy, hoping to shatter the seal as soon as possible. Finally, the seal on the surface of the black and white pillar was completely shattered into pieces. Boom! The moment the restriction shattered, the terrifying power of life and death blasted over mercilessly like a flood from a dam. Palace Master Jingyan, LV Haotian, and the others did not expect such a change to occur when the seal was shattered. They were all involuntarily hit. The 13 of them suddenly retreated hundreds of steps. The blood in their bodies was roiling. Among them, Elder Haitang and the others with weaker cultivation spat out a mouthful of blood and looked dispirited. Palace Master Jingyan and LV Haotian were better. Palace Master Jingyan only looked pale. LV Haotian, on the other hand, had suffered serious injuries because of Zhuowen. He had not fully recovered yet. Now LV Haotian, who was caught off guard by the life and death energy, his injuries were more serious than before. Blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. The moment all of them retreated, the moment the life and death pills life and death pills life and death energy was released, a figure suddenly leaped out from the countless evil spirits. Son of the sea. A clear and melodious voice rang out. Then the surrounding tens of thousands of miles of space turned into a vast ocean. At the end of this ocean, a waning sun rose. When the figure leaped up, the broken sun rose as well. A terrifying space-time force spread out like a bomb, exploding continuously. The evil spirits in the surroundings were all blown to pieces by the power of the sun. As for LV Haotian, Palace Master Jingyan, and Elder Begonia, who were originally retreating, their bodies stiffened the moment the sun rose. They could only desperately urge the divine power in their bodies to resist the strange and terrifying power that descended from the sun. Zhuowen, you little bastard! LV Haotian immediately recognized the identity of the figure when he saw the sun. However, he had just been blasted back by the life and death energy and had not recovered yet. He was in his weakest state. Moreover, he was blasted by the power of the sun. He could only barely hold on. However, LV Haotian knew that as long as he could survive this moment, the mysterious life divine power in his body would be restored to its peak. At that time, it would be the death of this little bastard. LV Haotian, do you think I don't know your plan? I'm afraid I'll disappoint you. Just as LV Haotian was calculating in his heart, Zhuowen's voice suddenly came from above his head. LV Haotian couldn't help but raise his head. Immediately he saw Zhuowen standing above his head and then ruthlessly stomping on his face with the sole of his foot. Palace Master Jingyan, Elder Haitang, and the others also reacted. They were stunned to see a young man in white raise his foot and ruthlessly stomp on LV Haotian's face. As the saying goes, Hit someone but don't hit the face. Now, not only did Zhuowen hit him, but he also ruthlessly stomped on him. This was a great insult to LV Haotian. LV Haotian roared towards the sky. At this moment, his mysterious life, divine power had been completely restored. He wanted to completely destroy this little bastard. Zhuowen took advantage of the moment when he stepped on LV Haotian's cheek to suddenly jump, just as LV Haotian began to reach out to attack Zhuowen. Zhuowen leaped into the air and coldly looked at LV Haotian, who reached out to grab him. He bent his right hand and pointed down. Suddenly, the sun set, which had risen to its peak, fell down at an extremely fast speed. It brushed past Zhuowen and heavily slammed into LV Haotian's body. How could Lu Haotian have thought that Zhuowen would have such a move? His body was directly hit by sundered sun, and his extended right hand was smashed into a distorted shape. His whole body fell to the ground in a sorry state, creating an endless pit on the ground. Stop him! Palace Master Jingyan didn't have time to care about LV Haotian. She took a step forward and rushed towards Zhuowen. Elder Haidang and the others were naturally not to be outdone. They attacked Zhuowen one after another, hoping to stop Zhuowen. Unfortunately, Zhuowen had already taken out the space-time wheel and stepped on it. He disappeared as if he had teleported. When he reappeared, he was already above the life or death pellet. Take the life or death pellet quickly. The Pill Emperor Turtle, who was lying on Zhuowen's shoulder, quickly said. There was no need for the Pill Emperor Turtle to say anything. Zhuowen already knew. He stretched out his right hand, grabbed the life or death pellet, and put it into his spirit ring. Now, take 3 steps back and stop. Don't run. The Pill Emperor Turtle said again. Zhuowen's eyes revealed a puzzled look, but he still subconsciously did as he was told. When Zhuowen stopped, Palace Master Jingyan, Elder Haidang, and the other 13 people had already rushed over. They were only a few centimeters away from Zhuowen. However, the moment they were about to reach out to grab Zhuowen, a huge shadow rushed out from the black and white pillar below and smashed into their bodies. Pucci! The 13 people didn't expect that something would come out from the black and white pillar. They were all smashed and sent flying, their faces pale. Zhuowen happened to take 3 steps back, avoiding the trajectory of the black shadow's ascent. Chapter 2398. Escape. This black shadow was a huge pill furnace. It was as black as ink, sparkling and translucent as if it was carved out of jade. Moreover, the reason why Zhuowen was so shocked was mainly because the shape of this pill furnace was almost exactly the same as the shape of the pill fire in the pill tower. Zhuowen wanted to ask the Pill Emperor Turtle about it, but the turtle's eyes lit up the moment it saw the cauldron. It jumped up and landed on top of the cauldron. The pill furnace was sealed, but the Pill Emperor Turtle moved to the bottom of the pill furnace as if it was familiar with it. Then it jumped into the pill furnace. Not long after, the huge pill furnace automatically shrank to the size of a palm. Soon after, it slowly landed on Zhuowen's palm. Zhuowen, hurry up and take us away. Otherwise, you won't be able to escape. The Pill Emperor Turtle transmitted its voice. Zhuowen was startled, and his face turned ugly when he saw Palace Master Jingyan and the others rushing over. Was the Pill Emperor Turtle treating him as an errand boy? However, no matter how unhappy Zhuowen was, he didn't dare to act recklessly at this moment. He wasn't a match for Palace Master Jingyan, and there were 12 powerful half-step virtual sky night steps experts. He knew that once he was surrounded, he wouldn't be able to escape. Thinking of this, Zhuowen immediately took out the space-time wheel, and his whole body turned into an afterimage, disappearing from the spot. When Palace Master Jingyan and the others arrived, Zhuowen had already disappeared without a trace. The space-time wheel's speed was too fast. Even a life enlightenment realm expert like Palace Master Jingyan couldn't catch up. Damn it, who is this kid? A mere virtual sky 7th step ant dares to snatch the life or death pill from our hands. The crabapple old man's eyes were gloomy, and he was unwilling to accept this. If I'm not wrong, he should be Zhuowen. The black-robed man beside the crabapple old man said indifferently, the Zhuowen who killed Lu Xin, Hall's group? The crabapple old man asked in surprise. The black-clothed man nodded noncommittally and didn't say much. Instead, it was the crabapple old man who revealed a contemplative expression. In fact, when they discovered that Zhuowen's cultivation was only at the void sky 7-step, they had already guessed it. Now that it was confirmed, they began to think even further. This Zhuowen's cultivation was not high, but he was able to snatch the life or death pill from their hands and even escape. This showed that he was not ordinary. If such an existence was allowed to continue growing, it would definitely be extremely terrifying. It was best not to develop this kind of person into an enemy. Otherwise, there would be endless trouble in the future. Unless you could nip this kind of monstrous genius in the bud, it would be a very wrong decision to make him your enemy. Humph! How could a mere 7 steps void sky Brad obtain something as important as the life or death pill? No matter how heaven-defying this little demon is, I will not let go of this life or death pill, the old man said coldly. The black-clothed man glanced at the crabapple old man. In fact, his words just now were to remind the old man. At the same time, he also wanted to ask for the old man's opinion, indicating that he was actually following him. With the old man and the black-clothed man's statements, the other 10 half-step void sky 9-step cultivators also expressed their agreement. Palace Master Jingyun's beautiful eyes flickered, but she didn't interrupt. Instead, she said indifferently, "This place is not safe. I will leave first." After saying that, Palace Master Jingyun turned into an afterimage and left this area filled with evil spirits. Boom! In the huge pit below, countless evil spirits had invaded and filled it. Suddenly, a terrifying energy erupted, and all the evil spirits in the deep pit were blown to pieces. A miserable figure suddenly jumped out. This figure was none other than Lu Haoyan, who had been blasted down by Zhuowen's sun, Waning Sunday. At this moment, Lu Haoyan was in an extremely sorry state. His whole body was in a mess, and his face was extremely pale. "Where is that little bastard Zhuowen? Where is he?" Lu Haotian said, somewhat losing his mind. The old man and the black-clothed man glanced at Lu Haotian, then smiled at each other. The old man went up and said, "Palace Master Lu, that Zhuowen has a very powerful flying divine tool. He has already escaped." "Where did he go?" Lu Haotian said coldly. The old man frowned slightly, revealing a trace of displeasure. Soon after, he pointed in the direction Zhuowen left and said, "He fled in that direction." Lu Haotian nodded and took a step forward with his right foot. He disappeared from where he was and rushed in the direction Zhuowen left. The crabapple old man and the others looked at each other in dismay and tacitly followed behind LV Haotian. However, not long after Lu Haotian and the others left, the evil spirits in the eastern part of Death Valley suddenly became restless. In the emotionless eyes of these evil spirits, the light of fear suddenly burst forth, as if something terrifying had happened. Then the tide-like evil spirits retreated to the eastern part of Death Valley, as if something was summoning them. The many cultivators who were struggling to confront the evil spirits all sighed in relief when they found that the evil spirits had retreated. They felt much more relaxed, but there was also a trace of doubt. In front of the army of evil spirits, these cultivators were almost completely defeated. If this continued, the cultivators would be wiped out sooner or later. But now, the army of evil spirits gave up on such a good situation and chose to retreat. Obviously, these cultivators were puzzled. After the army of evil spirits retreated, the gap in the eastern part of Death Valley was once again shrouded in thick black fog, as if nothing had happened. "Let's go!" The other cultivators who were lucky enough to survive all fled. Soon, the strange Death Valley regained its calm. After a while, a slightly fat figure slowly appeared in the originally quiet eastern part of Death Valley. This was a fat man with a fat body. His round face made him look rather comical. After walking out of Death Valley, the fat man looked back at the black fog lingering in Death Valley behind him and said with a smile, "I hope that guy doesn't disappoint me. If he still can't get out with my help, then he's really a piece of trash." After saying that, the fat man quietly left. "Kid, you stepped on Lu Haotian's face. I'm afraid he won't let you go." Xiao He clicked his tongue in wonder as the thunder fire sword circled around Zhuowen. Zhuowen smiled faintly and said, "Even if I don't step on that old guy's face, we're still enemies." Chapter 2399. Hide. "I'm afraid I'll have to ask that turtle." Zhuowen was also puzzled. Since the Pill Emperor turtle had entered the furnace, it hadn't uttered a single word. Although Zhuowen wanted to ask, since the Pill Emperor turtle didn't make a sound, he knew that it wasn't the right time to ask. Now he had to find a secluded place to hide. The news that the life or death pill was in his hands would soon spread. There were many cultivators entering the divine Pill's secret realm this time, and Zhuowen knew that if he didn't hide, he would be easily attacked by a group of cultivators, which wasn't a good thing for him. After finding a secluded valley, Zhuowen opened up an immortal cave that was hard to detect. Outside the immortal cave, he laid down layers of restrictions before entering the immortal cave. While Zhuowen was waiting for the Pill Emperor turtle to wake up in the immortal cave, the cultivators in the divine Pill's secret realm were in an uproar. The cultivators who went to the Death Valley last time were only a portion of the cultivators. There were also some who didn't go to the Death Valley because they were slow to get the news or because they were delayed in finding a treasure land. When the surviving cultivators came back and found out that the life or death pill they brought back was taken away by 7th Step Void Sky cultivator, it naturally caused an uproar. If it was a life-comprehending expert like LV Haotian or Palace Master Jingyan who took the life or death pill, these cultivators wouldn't be in such an uproar. However, the person who had obtained the life or death pill was only an unknown vagrant cultivator at the 7th step of the Void Sky realm. Thus, this matter had become different. Perhaps it could be said that many cultivators were eager to find Zhuowen and obtain the life or death pill from him. For a moment, all the cultivators in the divine Pill's secret realm began to search for Zhuowen. If Zhuowen went out now, he would be recognized very quickly and would be besieged. After all, the video of Zhuowen snatching the life and death pill had spread like wildfire in the secret realm. Almost everyone recognized Zhuowen and his aura. In a remote desert, a beautiful figure slowly landed on a dilapidated ancient building. This beautiful figure had her eyes slightly closed. Her skin was fair, and she wore a light veil on her face. Her true face was faintly discernible. Wasn't she the Palace Master of Desire Palace, Jingyan? Palace Master Jingyan stopped behind the ancient building. With a wave of her sleeve, she took out a bright flower. The flower floated in the air and gradually enlarged. Then it bloomed. In the center of the flower, beautiful figures appeared. They all landed on the ground. They were the disciples of the Desire Palace that Palace Master Jingyan had taken away. "Master, did you get the life and death pill?" A disciple of the Desire Palace came to the front of Palace Master Jingyan and asked with cupped fists. Yao Xiangjuan and Zhu Rui, who were among the disciples, also looked at Palace Master Jingyan with interest. In their opinion, only Palace Master Jingyan and Lu Haotian were qualified to obtain the life and death pill. However, Lu Haotian had suffered heavy injuries, so they felt that Palace Master Jingyan had the highest chance of obtaining the life or death pill. Unexpectedly, Palace Mistress Jingyan shook her head. This caused Yao Xiangjuan and the others to be surprised. "Martial Aunt, did Lu Haotian take it?" Yao Xiangjuan asked. Palace Master Jingyan still shook her head. She looked at Yao Xiangjuan and said, "Lu Haotian didn't get it. The one who really got the life and death pill was Zhuowen. He snatched it from our hands. That boy is very bold. Yao Xiangjuan's body shook, and her beautiful eyes revealed a trace of shock. Although she always knew that Zhuowen was very strong, she didn't expect that Zhuowen could snatch the life and death pill from two life comprehension experts. Moreover, he succeeded. In the Six Desires heavenly domain, there was probably no one below the life comprehension realm who could accomplish such a feat. Moreover, Zhuowen was only a cultivator of the void sky seventh step. It's actually Zhuowen. How is this possible? Zhu Rui was so shocked that she couldn't close her mouth. It could be said that Zhu Rui had seen Zhuowen's rise again and again. Since the beginning, Zhu Rui had found that the rogue cultivator who was only a little stronger than her in her eyes had become more and more powerful. Now, Zhuowen had actually snatched the life and death pill from a life comprehension expert like Palace Master Jingyan, and he had even succeeded. If Palace Master Jingyan hadn't told her this personally, she would have thought that someone else had made it up. Let's go. The closing time of the Divine Pill Secret Realm is not fixed, but it won't be too long. Use this time to gain experience here. Maybe you can find your own opportunities. Palace Master Jingyan waved her sleeve, and suddenly, petals flew out and fell on Yao Xiangjuan and the others. This is my communication talisman. If you are in danger, break this talisman, and I will immediately appear by your side. The Divine Pill Secret Realm is a place of opportunities. If I stay by your side all the time, I will only hinder your development. You can go now. After Palace Master Jingyan finished speaking, more than a dozen disciples of the Desire Palace bowed respectfully to the former. Immediately, they left with Palace Master Jingyan's message talisman and headed in other directions to find their own opportunities. Yao Xiangjuan and Zhu Rui were still standing in the same place. Zhu Rui actually wanted to leave, but when she saw that Yao Xiangjuan didn't leave, she could only calm down and wait. Xiangjuan, do you have something to ask? Palace Master Jingyan slightly closed her eyes and smiled at Yao Xiangjuan. Yao Xiangjuan's beautiful eyes flickered, and then she gritted her teeth and said, Martial Aunt, I want to ask where Zhuowen went later. Palace Master Jingyan shook her head and said, You should be familiar with Zhuowen, right? He has a very powerful flying divine artifact on him. That flying divine artifact is so fast that even I can't catch up to it. So I don't know where he went. Martial Aunt, are you going to find Zhuowen? Yao Xiangjuan asked again. Palace Master Jingyan calmly said, All the cultivators in the Divine Pill Secret Realm know that the life or death pill is with Zhuowen. Since others are looking for Zhuowen, why can't I? Moreover, I won't let go of the life or death pill. Yao Xiangjuan fell silent, and then she cupped her fists towards Palace Master Jingyan and left with Zhu Rui. Palace Master Jingyan silently looked at Yao Xiangjuan's back as she left and murmured in a low voice, I'm afraid that Xiangjuan is a little emotional. If there is a chance, it's better to eliminate Zhuowen. Otherwise, it will affect Xiangjuan's future. 2 months later, in the cave, the alchemy furnace in front of Zhuowen finally moved. A golden flame emerged from the alchemy furnace, but this golden flame was extremely weak, and it even looked insignificant. Moreover, it only appeared for a short while before it was extinguished. Then, for hooves slowly stretched out from the ground of the alchemy furnace. These hooves were the hooves of a tortoise, and a furtive head stretched out in front of the alchemy furnace. When the head stretched out, the 4 hooves stood up, and the alchemy furnace that was originally sitting on the ground rose up, as if the alchemy furnace had become the tortoise's shell. Chapter 2400. Emperor Pill Furnace. The Pill Emperor Turtle chuckled and said, Don't you know? This pill furnace is called the Emperor Pill Furnace. It was originally Master Turtle's shell, but because of various reasons, my Emperor Pill Furnace has been used by my master to store the life or death pill. After the birth of the life or death pill, the Emperor Pill Furnace naturally returned to its original owner, which means it returned to me." Saying so, the Pill Emperor Turtle proudly shook the huge pill furnace on its back, and the complacency in its eyes was obvious. "What's the use of your Emperor Pill Furnace?" Zhuowen asked, a little amused. "Use? There are many uses. With this Emperor Pill Furnace, I can grasp the location of all the divine pills in the Divine Pill Secret Realm. Moreover, I can rely on this Emperor Pill Furnace to avoid or break through many dangerous places. I can even dissolve low-grade divine pills and evolve them into high-grade divine pills." The Pill Emperor Turtle chuckled. Zhuowen looked at the pill furnace on the Pill Emperor Turtle's back and thought of the pill fire in the Pill Pagoda. "Pill Emperor Turtle, outside the Divine Pill Secret Realm, there's a Pill Pagoda. Inside the Pill Pagoda, there's a kind of pill fire, and the shape of the pill fire is exactly the same as your pill furnace. Is that pill fire related to you?" Zhuowen asked curiously. The Pill Emperor Turtle looked surprised and said, "Alchemy fire? This is the first time I've heard of it, and I'm not too sure. Maybe it's related to my master. My intelligence was born relatively late, so I'm not particularly clear about many things." Hearing this, Zhuowen nodded. Although the Pill Emperor Turtle knew nothing about pill fire, he knew that the pill fire should be closely related to the Emperor Pill Furnace and the Emperor Pill Fire. Of course, Zhuowen still didn't know what the relationship was. "Since your Emperor Pill Furnace is so useful, can you fuse all the divine pills I have into one and help me advance to the 8 steps Void Sky Realm?" With a wave of his sleeve, Zhuowen took out all the divine pills he had obtained from the cave guarded by Rakshasa and placed them in front of the Pill Emperor Turtle. His eyes were full of hope. The Pill Emperor Turtle glanced at Zhuowen and ignored the numerous divine pills that Zhuowen had taken out. "You've just advanced to the peak of the 7 steps Void Sky Realm. Even if I fuse all the divine pills together and make them strong enough to rival a level 9 divine pill, you still won't be able to advance to the 8 steps Void Sky Realm. Moreover, it's very likely your foundation will be damaged level 9 divine 9 steps Void Sky Realm," the Emperor Turtle solemnly said. Zhuowen was indeed a dragon god, was a mortal Pill Emperor Turtle Realm Pill Emperor Turtle. This made Zhuowen thirst for power even more. Emperor Pill was realm. Emperor God. Now the Pill Emperor Turtle's words were like a wake-up call. Zhuowen cupped his fists and thanked the Pill Emperor Turtle. The Pill Monarch Turtle waved his hand and said, "I can help you fuse these divine pills together. You should know that the divine pills refined in the Pill Monarch Cauldron are incomparably pure. There are almost no impurities. However, I will refine 10 fused divine pills according to your current condition. The effects won't be too strong. You just have to take them every once in a while. They will only be beneficial to your body. Moreover, they can strengthen your cultivation and bring you closer to the 8 steps Void Sky Realm." Zhuowen's eyes lit up. "Then I'll leave it to you." The Pill Emperor Turtle chuckled and waved his little hand. Instantly, the divine pills Zhuowen took out flew over and revolved around the Pill Emperor Turtle. Then the Alchemy Emperor Turtle roared, and the Alchemy Emperor Furnace on its back spewed out a fierce golden flame. Like a big mouth, the flame engulfed all the divine elixirs and put them into the Alchemy Emperor Furnace. "It will take some time to fuse these divine pills. You can go do it yourself." After the Pill Emperor Turtle finished speaking, it slowly closed its eyes and shrank back into the Pill Emperor Furnace. The Pill Emperor Furnace also became sparse and ordinary. It sat quietly in the same place. Only the golden flames inside the furnace seemed to indicate that this furnace was unusual. Zhuowen sat back down on the praying mat and closed his eyes to meditate. Time flew and another month passed. The temperature in the cave house rose to an extremely terrifying level. Zhuowen, who was sitting cross-legged on the praying mat, couldn't stand it anymore. He stood up and looked at the Pill Emperor Furnace seriously. Since the Pill Emperor Furnace began fusing divine pills a month ago, the heat it emitted became more and more terrifying. Until now, the temperature in the cave house had reached an extremely terrifying level. Even Zhuowen couldn't bear it. "What is this guy doing?" Zhuowen whispered with a frown. Suddenly, the pale emperor furnace, which had been quiet, trembled. Immediately, Zhuowen's pupils shrank as he found that a terrifying flame had erupted from the inside of the pale emperor furnace. This flame was like a fire dragon, spiraling up and filling the entire cave house in an instant. The moment Zhuowen realized that something was wrong, he waved his sleeve and quickly unlocked the restriction at the entrance of the cave house. He wanted to escape from the cave house, but he soon found that this speed was too slow. It was too late. Helpless, he took out the phagocytosis and poured his divine power into the phagocytosis. After the phagocytosis expanded to cover all the blind spots of the whole body, the flames suddenly spewed out. Rumble! The flames were extremely terrifying. In an instant, the surrounding valleys began to shake as if the mountains were collapsing. Then, countless cracks appeared in the surrounding valleys, and they turned into ruins in an instant. Bang! A figure rushed out of the ruins in an extremely sorry state. In front of him was a huge black jade seal. Zhuowen looked at the ruins below and cursed in a low voice. "What the hell is this pale emperor turtle doing?" As soon as he finished speaking, the pale emperor turtle came out with the pale emperor turtle. The pale emperor turtle immediately felt a murderous intent. It raised its head guiltily and met Zhuowen's unfriendly gaze. It coughed dryly and said, "Hee, it was a mistake. It was my first time fusing with the divine pill, so I made some mistakes. But it won't happen again. Here are 10 fused divine pills. Take them." Zhuowen looked at the divine pill in his palm, and his complexion improved slightly. That person looks so familiar. Could it be Zhuowen? Dressed in white and with a black jade seal. Who else could it be other than Zhuowen? Let's go. Let's hurry up and inform the others. After Zhuowen was forced out of the cave house because of the pill emperor turtle, he immediately attracted the attention of the other cultivators near the valley. The moment these cultivators recognized Zhuowen, they secretly sent messages to the cultivators they knew, but they did not alert the enemy. Chapter 2401. Encirclement and suppression. There were 3 cultivators around the valley that Zhuowen was in. Their cultivations were not high, only around the 3rd level of the void sky realm. When the 3 of them sent out the message, it also attracted Zhuowen's attention. However, these 3 cultivators were quite far away from Zhuowen, and their cultivations were not high, so Zhuowen did not pay much attention to them. "I'm afraid I can't use this cave anymore." Zhuowen looked at the pill emperor turtle beside him, speechless. This guy was as unreliable as Xiaohe. Bringing the pill emperor turtle with him, Zhuowen flew in another direction. He planned to find a secluded place to cultivate. However, not long after Zhuowen flew out, he immediately realized that something was wrong, because on his way, more and more cultivators gathered around him. Although these cultivators seemed to be searching for something, Zhuowen was keenly aware that these cultivators were intentionally or unintentionally casting their consciousness on him. Zhuowen coldly snorted, and his terrifying consciousness spread out. As long as there were cultivators who dared to cast their consciousness on him, Zhuowen would fiercely retaliate. For a moment, many of the surrounding cultivators were clutching their heads, baring their teeth as they growled. It was obvious that they were suffering from the backlash of their consciousness. As for Zhuowen, he immediately took out his time and space wheel, intending to leave this place. The moment Zhuowen activated his time and space wheel, 12 figures rushed over from the surroundings. Following that, 12 terrifying and powerful divine powers came crashing down like a storm, completely sealing off Zhuowen's path. These 12 figures cooperated very well, and not long after, they actually set up a powerful barrier around Zhuowen. It's Old Man Crabapple and the others. I'm afraid this Zhuowen won't be able to escape, even if he has wings. Nonsense. 12 half-step void sky 9-step experts, and all of them are powerful existences who have lived for countless years. If these 12 people joined forces, they would probably be able to fight against a life-enlightening realm expert. No matter how powerful this Zhuowen is, it's impossible for him to escape from the hands of these 12 people. Although many of the surrounding cultivators coveted Zhuowen's life and death pills after seeing the 12 half-step 9th Ascension void stage experts led by the old man, they all gave up on the idea of obtaining life and death pills. What a waste of effort. I've contacted so many cultivators during this period of time. Sure enough, they've come in handy. The old man stood not far in front of Zhuowen and looked down at Zhuowen with eyes full of arrogance. Are these cultivators your men? Zhuowen looked around and said to the begonia old man indifferently. The crabapple old man grinned and said, "It's just a cooperative relationship. We only need to pay a few divine pills, and these people will come to an agreement with us. They will inform us as soon as they see you." Zhuowen nodded. This crabapple old man wasn't stupid. He actually knew how to cast a wide net. "You want the life or death pill?" Zhuowen asked calmly. The crabapple old man laughed and looked at Zhuowen as if he was looking at an idiot. He said, "What else? A mere 7th Ascension void stage expert isn't worthy of the life or death pill. If you know what's good for you, then quickly hand it over." As soon as the old man said this, the other 11 half-step 9th Ascension void stage experts also sneered and looked at Zhuowen as if they were looking at prey. Zhuowen's eyes were cold. If he was facing 1 or 2 half-step 9th Ascension void stage experts, he wouldn't be afraid. However, he was facing 12 such terrifying experts. Even Zhuowen was extremely wary. "What if I say no?" Zhuowen slowly took out the king's sword. Sword Qi whistled around him like a gale. The crabapple old man revealed a sinister smile and said, "You don't have the right to say no. Of course, even if you take the initiative to hand over the life or death pill now, you won't have the chance because you'll die anyway." After saying this, the crabapple old man stretched out his skinny right arm and made a grabbing motion towards Zhuowen. Suddenly, a strange and terrifying energy rushed out like an angry dragon and blasted towards Zhuowen's vitals. Zhuowen narrowed his eyes and held the king's sword in his hand. Then he suddenly slashed out. With him as the center, the space around him instantly distorted and collapsed. This was the power of time and space. At this moment, Zhuowen had already mastered the power of time and space. Every move he made contained a terrifying power of time and space. The raging dragon crashed in front of Zhuowen, but it was immediately beheaded by Zhuowen's sword. Then the powerful space-time power shattered the space around the raging dragon, turning the raging dragon into dust. "Attack!" The moment the angry dragon was destroyed by Zhuowen, the crabapple old man attacked Zhuowen like a rock spreading its wings. When Zhuowen snatched the life or death pill, the crabapple old man had seen his extraordinary strength. Therefore, he didn't dare to be negligent and joined forces with the other 11 to encircle Zhuowen. There was no need for the crabapple old man to say anything. The moment the crabapple old man's attack was broken by Zhuowen, the other 11 took action. After all, the temptation of the life or death pill was no small matter. They all wanted the life or death pill. Zhuowen's eyes were full of caution. The encirclement of 12 half-step void sky 9th step experts was absolutely unprecedented. Not to mention a 7th step void sky cultivator like him. Even life-comprehending experts wouldn't have experienced such a thing. This Zhuowen is really finished. The crabapple old man and the other 11 are attacking together. This kid is dead for sure. An ordinary man is innocent, but treasuring a jade ring becomes a crime. This kid is too greedy. He actually set his eyes on the life or death pill. He's simply digging his own grave. The moment the surrounding cultivators saw the crabapple old man join forces to deal with Zhuowen, they were all moved. Since ancient times, this was the first time they had seen such a big battle formation. And such a big battle formation was just to encircle and annihilate a 7th-step void sky peak cultivator. Although in the eyes of many cultivators, this white-clothed youth's cultivation was not high, but his strength was terrifying enough. Even so, they still felt that this white-clothed youth would not be able to escape even if he had wings. Zhuowen took a deep breath and immediately took out the Thunderfire Sword and Blood Immortal Sword. At the same time, he also took out the 9 Extinction Divine Rune Sword and Sky-Destroying Meteor, the 2 secondary heaven-breaking divine artifacts. The King's Sword in Zhuowen's hand had already been upgraded to a secondary heaven-breaking divine artifact. All of this was due to the contribution of the Cosmic Flare Basket Stone Mine. Of course, in order to increase the power and quality of the King's Sword, Zhuowen used a lot of Cosmic Flare Basket Stone Mine. It could be said that he was simply squandering it. However, the King's Sword did not disappoint and successfully upgraded. Moreover, its quality and power were much stronger than ordinary secondary heaven-breaking divine artifacts. Damn it! Kid, you're making us cannon fodder. Chapter 2402. Killing in Tenchuan was too lazy to pay attention to Xiaohe. This guy was very crafty. When Zhuowen had a fortuitous encounter, he had extorted a lot of resources from him. In addition, Xiaohe wasn't simple. Zhuowen knew that this guy's current strength shouldn't be weaker than a half-step, 9th-step Void Sky expert. Even if he wasn't, the gap wasn't big. Now that he was surrounded by 11 half-step, 9th-step Void Sky experts, it was impossible for Xiaohe to stay out of this. Just as Xiaohe finished speaking, the attacks of the Crabapple Old Man and the others had already arrived. Xiaohe cursed inwardly. He could only brace himself and face them head-on. Otherwise, he would really become cannon fodder. Bang! 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 Instantly, Xiaohe brought the Blood Immortal Sword and intercepted 2 half-step, 9th-step Void Sky experts. As for the remaining 10 half-step, 9th-step Void Sky experts, they were naturally left to Zhuowen. Zhuowen took a deep breath and extended his powerful divine sense. He controlled the 9 Extinction Divine Rune Sword and Space Extinguishing Meteor to face off against the 2 half-step, 9th-step Void Sky experts. The phagocytosis was flipped over by him. It swelled to the size of a small mountain, and a powerful Dao aura spread out. It blocked the 2 half-step Void Sky experts at the same time. This time, Zhuowen used all his skills and could only barely block 6 of the half-step, 9th-step Void Sky experts. The remaining 6, led by the Crabapple Old Man, laughed nastily and rushed towards Zhuowen. Zhuowen's gaze turned serious, and he sighed in his heart. Now that he was facing 6 half-step, 9th-step Void Sky experts, it was really a bit dangerous. Although he still had 3 servants in the Songlan secret realm, their cultivations were far from comparable to the half-step, 9th-step Void Sky experts. Calling them out would only add 3 more cannon fodder. I can't fight them head-on. I have to leave this place first. Otherwise, I won't be a match for the 12 of them. Zhuowen thought of retreating. It wasn't too difficult for him to deal with 1 or 2 half-step, 9th-step Void Sky experts. However, there were 12 of them. It was too much for him. Heaven and earth splitter. When he thought up to here, Zhuowen suddenly raised the Emperor's sword in his hand and slashed at the space before him. Immediately, large swaths of the surrounding space distorted and shattered. It was as if a new world was about to be opened up in the surrounding space. When the Crabapple Old Man and the other 5-step Void Sky experts, they couldn't help but stagnate. Rumble. Earth, heaven, earth, 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 God, spirit. Zhuowen knew that this move wouldn't be able to stop the 6 of them. He was only borrowing this move to slow down the movements of the old man and the others, paving the way for his next move. At the end of the sea, a red sun slowly rose. The moment the Crabapple Old Man and the other 5-step Void Sky experts fell into the sea, their bodies trembled and a strong sense of uneasiness rose in their minds, especially the Crabapple Old Man. after feeling the powerful space-time destruction of the surrounding space-time sea. He quickly thought of the move Zhuowen used to send Lu Haotian flying when he snatched the life-and-death pill. When this move was first used, the crabapple old man knew that it was a space-time ability. Moreover, it was very powerful. Be careful. This is a space-time ability that this kid comprehended. As long as we block this space-time ability, this kid won't have any other tricks up his sleeve. At that time, it will be easy for us to capture him. The crabapple old man quickly said to the others. The rest of the people who were panicking because of the power of the space-time god ability calmed down after hearing the old man's words. In their opinion, space-time ability was indeed powerful. However, the one who used it was only a 7th step void sky expert. Therefore, they felt a lot more at ease. "Let's block this ability together," the crabapple old man said. The crabapple old man spoke once more. It was unknown when, but in his withered right hand, an ordinary-looking withered branch had appeared. This withered branch was very thin, like a dead tree that fell to the ground. It was very inconspicuous. The moment the crabapple old man took out this withered branch, a withering power came from it. It was as if everything in the world that was full of vitality was gradually declining under the influence of this withered branch. After the crabapple old man used his full strength, the others naturally didn't hold back. They took out their respective divine tools and joined forces to resist the terrifying power of the space-time sea and the powerful destructive power of the gradually rising sun. The sun rose higher and finally smashed on the barrier above. Then, the originally indestructible barrier shook violently under the powerful, destructive power of the sun. Not good. This kid's goal is not us, but the barrier. We can't let him destroy the barrier. The crabapple old man's expression changed slightly. He quickly guessed Zhuowen's intention. With a kick of his right foot, he turned into a stream of light and rushed towards the sun. Unfortunately, the crabapple old man discovered that the closer he got to the sun, the more terrifying the destructive power became. Before the crabapple old man was even half the distance, he had no choice but to give up in the end. The space-time destructive power of the sun was too terrifying. It was too difficult for him to take the initiative to approach. Of course, if the 12 of them joined forces, it would be possible. But now, 6 of them had been pinned down by Zhuowen. The remaining 5 were not the type to work together. They were minding their own business. It was impossible for them to stop the terrifying sun with the crabapple old man. Just as the crabapple old man had no choice but to give up and retreat into the defensive circle of the 5 people, the sea around him suddenly surged with towering waves. They formed 4 high walls, trapping the crabapple old man inside. "Old man, is this a place where you can come and go as you please?" An indifferent voice rang out around the high waves. Then streaks of sword light shot out from the high waves and blasted towards the crabapple old man. The crabapple old man's expression was unsightly. He recognized that this was Zhuowen's voice. He didn't expect this kid to still have the strength to attack after using the space-time divine art. This was truly unexpected. After all, if a cultivator below the 9th step of the void sky used space-time divine art, it would be very strenuous. After all, if one's cultivation base couldn't keep up, using such a powerful divine art would definitely consume a lot of energy. However, Zhuowen wasn't as strenuous as the crabapple old man had expected. Instead, he could still launch an attack. This made the crabapple old man both shocked and angry. Zhuowen's eyes were filled with killing intent. Among the 12 people, the crabapple old man was the most senior. It was also this old fart who had suggested to encircle Zhuowen. Therefore, if he didn't kill this old fart this time, Zhuowen wouldn't give up. Boom! The crabapple old man continuously blasted out with the withered branch in his hand. The withering power was like the sharpest blade in the world. It actually cut the surrounding space-time waves into countless pieces. However, this was of no use. After all, the space-time sea Zhuowen used was too vast. The fact that the crabapple old man could persist without dying showed that he was much stronger than ordinary half-step void sky ninth-step cultivators. After all, Zhuo Wen's cultivation was merely at the initial stage of the seventh-step void sky realm. Yet the space-time ability he executed had almost killed Kuang Li, and he'd even killed the half-step void sky realm ninth-step void sky realm expert from Shrine Lu. Chapter 2403. Without the lips, the teeth will feel the cold. The 5 of you came to help me. Without the lips, the teeth will feel the cold. If I die, the 5 of you will be finished as well. The crabapple old man had practically used everything he had, but he could only barely block the attack of the space-time waves. However, he knew that he couldn't hold on for too long, so he could only send a voice transmission to the other 5 people who were watching from the sidelines. Hearing the old man's voice transmission, the other 5 people's eyes flickered, and they all fell into hesitation. They were also bound by the power of the space-time sea. Of course, with their strength, it was more than enough to break free and help the old man. However, they were all smart people. They wouldn't joke around with their lives, so when the old man called for help, they very tacitly fell into silence, including the black-clothed man. "Haha, old man, are you planning to use them as tools? They won't gain anything by helping you." Zhuowen chuckled. Then he cupped his fists towards the 5 people who were blocking the space-time sea and said, "The 5 of you, I have no enmity with you. Now you've seen that I've grasped a space-time ability. Moreover, I can use this ability more than once. If I use it again, do you think you can still block it? In the past, when I was at the early stage of the 7th step, I relied on this ability to kill a half-step, 9th step cultivator. Now that my cultivation has reached the peak of the 7th step, it's not impossible for me to kill you." The 5 people's pupils constricted, and they looked at Zhuowen with extreme fear. Especially after experiencing the power of the space-time ability, they regretted listening to the old man's suggestion to besiege the white-clothed young man. This white-clothed young man was really not simple. He was only at the peak of the 7th step. If he advanced to the 8th step, wouldn't he be able to slaughter them like dogs? "I'll give you all a chance. If you back out now, I won't hold you responsible. I'll only kill this old bastard. I know that this old bastard is the cause of all this trouble. How about it?" Zhuowen said patiently. "Don't listen to this kid's nonsense. He's sowing dissension. Once you retreat and I die, your death date won't be far away," the crabapple old man quickly said. Zhuowen sneered, "Believe it or not, but if you insist, I don't mind using my space-time ability again." After a short silence, the man in black cupped his fists and said, "Brother Zhuo is really magnanimous. I, Muda, am really ashamed. I hope, brother, Zhuo won't mind my withdrawal this time." "Of course not." Zhuowen smiled and sent the black-clothed man out of the sea of time and space. When the other 4 people saw that the black-clothed man was actually let go so easily, their eyes all revealed a moved expression. "We'll withdraw as well." "Me too." The other 4 people also hurriedly showed flattering expressions and cupped their fists toward Zhuowen, indicating that they wanted to withdraw. The crabapple old man cursed in his heart. He knew very well that these people didn't have a deep relationship with him. Now that they found that Zhuowen was so difficult to deal with, the first thing they thought of was naturally their own lives. Now that 5 people had withdrawn at once, the pressure on Zhuowen suddenly decreased a lot. Crack! At this moment, the terrifying cruelty finally destroyed all the barriers that the 12 people had set up in advance. Zhuowen floated in the air and looked down at the crabapple old man who was surrounded by high waves on all sides but was unable to break free. The corner of his mouth revealed a murderous smile and said, "Crabapple old man, I must kill you today." The crabapple old man's face was pale. Just as he was about to speak, Zhuowen bent his right hand and pointed, then suddenly fell. The sun that had risen to the highest point fell like a meteor. Its speed was extremely fast, and it suddenly landed in the middle of the high waves. Then, as if an endless amount of seawater had exploded, pillars of water shot up into the sky. These pillars of water were not regional. Instead, they rushed up from the entire space-time sea. It was like a musical fountain. The entire surface of the water was filled with pillars of water, and it was impossible to see what the surface of the sea looked like. It was extremely spectacular. The remaining 6 practitioners who were originally restrained by the Thunderfire sword and phagocytosis were caught off guard and were immediately pushed back by the surrounding pillars of water. They were in an extremely sorry state. However, Xiaohei and the others were not affected at all. Motherf asterisk her, you had a good time beating me up just now. Now it's my turn. Xiaohei was a guy who climbed up a pole. Now that he had the help of these space-time seawater pillars, he naturally would not let go of this opportunity to beat the dogs that were down. Thus, Blackie called out to the blood immortal sword and roared loudly as it charged towards the 2 cultivators who could only block the water pillar in a sorry state. The 2 cultivators could only bitterly smile as they secretly complained in their hearts. Zhuowen silently looked at the crabapple old man who was holding a withered branch and struggling to block the sun. His eyes were full of coldness. Let me go, and I swear I will never trouble you again. And I will also give you everything I have, as long as you let me go. The crabapple old man was now bleeding from his 7 orifices. Even the illusory bridge had begun to burn to block the terrifying sun in front of him. However, the power of the sun was too terrifying. The crabapple old man knew very well that he would not be able to block it for long before he was completely blown to smithereens by the sun. He had cultivated to this level through countless years of accumulation. He still had a long life ahead of him. How could he be willing to die like this? Therefore, the crabapple old man abandoned all his dignity and began to beg Zhuowen for mercy. He knew that this was the only way he could have a chance to live. Sorry, you no longer have a chance. Zhuowen's eyes were calm. His right hand bent and pointed again. The sun suddenly blasted down. The crabapple old man, who was originally on the verge of collapse, completely sank into the sea of time and space under the attack of the sun. The moment the crabapple old man sank into the sea, the illusory bridge behind him began to shatter into powder. It began to break apart and finally shattered into pieces. The moment the sun fell into the sea, 6 terrifying waves rose from the sea of time and space, sweeping all the 6 practitioners who were still within the range of the sea of time and space. No, I surrender. Let us go. Don't kill me. This has nothing to do with me. It's all the crabapple old man's instigation. The moment the sea of time and space unleashed its power, the 6 practitioners all revealed looks of fear and repeatedly begged for mercy. Unfortunately, Zhuowen did not give them a chance to beg for mercy. The terrifying power of the sea of time and space erupted and swept all of them into the depths of the sea. The sea returned to calm, and there was no more news of the 6 of them. Chapter 2404. Hiss. When the space-time ocean calmed down, the first to react were the 5 cultivators who had just escaped death. Then they all gasped in unison. The surrounding cultivators also reacted one after another. They were all dumbfounded as they watched all this. 12 half-step, void sky 9th step experts had been defeated just like that. Moreover, Zhuowen had killed 7 of them by himself. Wasn't this a bit too frightening? Zhuowen's face was slightly pale. He forcefully suppressed the boiling blood in his body and quickly consumed the heavenly domain star essence. Only then did he feel much better. 12 half-step, void sky 9th stage cultivators teamed up. Zhuowen knew his limits. No matter how powerful he was, it was impossible for him to deal with 12 half-step, void sky 9th stage cultivators teaming up. The reason he won this time was firstly because he restrained 6 of them. Secondly, he calmly persuaded the other 6. Otherwise, if Zhuowen continued to fight, the chances of him losing would be very high. Of course, part of the reason was that the 12 of them didn't work together. If the 12 of them worked together, Zhuowen would really be miserable. Zhuowen's complexion improved. His gaze immediately fell on the 5 cultivators led by the black-clothed man. Sensing Zhuowen's gaze, the black-clothed man trembled. He quickly cupped his hands and said, "Senior, you said before that we have no enmity between us. You won't kill us." Zhuowen said indifferently, "Don't worry. I did promise you that I won't kill you." Hearing Zhuowen's words, the black-clothed man and the other 4 heaved a sigh of relief. The battle strength Zhuowen had just displayed was too terrifying. Even if the 5 of them teamed up now, they would definitely be far from being a match for him. However, you have to pay a price for teaming up with that old man. Hand over your spirit rings. Otherwise, I'll take them by force," Zhuowen said indifferently. As soon as these words came out, the black-clothed man and the other 4's faces became unsightly. In the spirit ring, there were many divine pellets that they had collected in the divine pellet secret realm. Among them, there was no lack of high-grade divine pellets, which had cost them a lot of effort. In addition, there were many personal belongings in the spirit ring. If they handed it over to Zhuowen now, wouldn't they become paupers? Unfortunately, the killing intent in Zhuowen's eyes had already descended, and they could not refuse at all. They knew that once they refused, the white-clothed young man before them would mercilessly kill them. There would be no mercy at all. With no other choice, the black-clothed man and the others could only reluctantly part with their treasures. They took off their spirit rings and handed them over to Zhuowen. After putting away the 5 spiritual rings, Zhuowen revealed a satisfied expression and said, "Thanks." After saying that, Zhuowen took out the space-time wheel and planned to leave. However, the moment he activated the space-time wheel, a purple light shot out from the ground at an extremely fast speed and slammed into the bottom of the space-time wheel. Boom! The powerful force immediately caused the space-time wheel to tumble in the air, and Zhuowen fell from the space-time wheel in a sorry state. At the moment of falling, Zhuowen finally noticed the true face of the purple light under the space-time wheel. The purple light was an unstoppable purple halberd, and a powerful aura was revealed from the halberd. Zhuowen was too familiar with this purple halberd. It was LV Haotian's life divine weapon. "Come back." Zhuowen's eyes were gloomy. With a wave of his sleeve, the surging divine power turned into a huge palm and grabbed at the space-time wheel. The importance of the space-time wheel to Zhuowen was self-evident. The reason why he could get rid of the martial artists in the life enlightenment realm was mainly due to the space-time wheel. Losing the space-time wheel to him was like a bird that had lost its wings. Unfortunately, just as Zhuowen's divine power hand stretched out, it was immediately crushed by another purple hand. Then the purple hand unceremoniously pinched the space-time wheel in its palm. Zhuowen stomped his right foot and looked gloomily at the imposing figure that broke out from the ground below. LV Haotian floated in front of Zhuowen, holding the purple halberd in his right hand and playing with the space-time wheel in his left hand. Under the suppression of LV Haotian's power, the space-time wheel had shrunk to the size of half a palm. You should have gotten this thing from the space-time quicksand river, right? It's really a good thing. This thing is mine in the future. LV Haotian looked at the space-time wheel in his palm with a touch of satisfaction in his eyes. He had been coveting the space-time wheel's speed for a long time. Even for an expert in the life enlightenment realm like him, this thing was of great help. After all, even he couldn't catch up with the space-time wheel's speed. This kind of flying divine weapon was very rare. As for you, die for me. LV Haotian formed a seal with his left hand, completely sealing the struggling space-time wheel, and immediately rushed towards Zhuowen. The purple halberd in his right hand blasted towards Zhuowen unceremoniously. Zhuowen's eyes were extremely gloomy. This LV Haotian was really scheming. He must have been lurking underground until Zhuowen relaxed his vigilance. Then he attacked and captured the space-time wheel in one fell swoop. Boom! Zhuowen summoned the phagocytosis and blocked in front of the purple halberd. Phagocytos's hardness was needless to say, but the force of the purple halberd that hit the phagocytosis was accurately reflected back to Zhuowen, causing Zhuowen to groan and the blood in his body to tumble. Seeing that Zhuowen only took a few steps back with a groan, Elvi Haotian's eyes suddenly narrowed, and the sense of urgency in his heart became stronger. When Zhuowen was only at the early stage of the Void Sky 7-step, his blow was enough to make Zhuowen extremely embarrassed, but now it only made him take a few steps back. Elvi Haotian knew that the reason for this, in addition to some internal injuries in his body that had not recovered, was that Zhuowen's strength had become stronger. Now, Zhuowen's cultivation was at the peak of the Void Sky 7-step, extremely close to the Void Sky 8-step. His terrifying strength was already at the peak of the half-step Void Sky 9-step. Of course, there was still some distance from the life enlightenment realm, and this distance was actually not far. Thinking that the young man in white in front of him was only at the peak of the Void Sky 7-step, Elvi Haotian knew that if he continued to grow, he might not be able to suppress this young man. The more he thought of this, the stronger Elvi Haotian's killing intent towards Zhuowen became. Die. Extreme purple shadow kill. Elvi Haotian roared. Immediately, he held the purple halberd in his hand and stepped in the void. Then he turned into a purple shadow and rushed towards Zhuowen. Chapter 2405. A Strange Lake. When Elvi Haotian reached Zhuowen's surroundings, the purple shadows instantly turned into thousands of dazzling purple shadows. However, among the countless purple shadows, there was a hidden killing intent. Among the countless shadows, a purple light pierced through the air and swept toward Zhuowen's neck, as if it wanted to pierce through Zhuowen's neck. The moment Elvi Haotian made this move, Zhuowen already had a bad premonition. It could be said that Elvi Haotian's move was very powerful, giving him an irresistible power. Therefore, Zhuowen did not hesitate to take out the Elixir Emperor Turtle and use it as a shield. The Elixir Emperor Turtle was obviously still thinking about the reason for its previous failure. It was caught off guard when Zhuowen took it out. It was not mentally prepared at all. However, the Elixir Emperor Turtle soon felt a strong killing intent. Then a powerful purple light shot out from the front and blasted directly toward it. The Elixir Emperor Turtle's perception was still very sharp. It quickly felt the terrifying killing intent in the purple light. Therefore, without saying anything, it immediately retracted its head into the Elixir Emperor furnace. However, in its heart, it was cursing Zhuowen's 18 generations of ancestors. Needless to say, the Elixir Emperor Turtle also knew that the damn kid was using it as a shield again. Bang! 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 The purple light was like a shuttle. It was extremely fast and heavily blasted on the Elixir Emperor furnace. Then, endless sparks burst out. Although the purple light looked very powerful, the Elixir Emperor furnace's sturdiness was beyond Zhuowen's imagination. It actually completely blocked the extremely threatening purple light. Elvi Haotian frowned slightly. He did not expect that Zhuowen would suddenly have such a strange Elixir Emperor furnace. Moreover, this Elixir Emperor furnace was so sturdy. It was really beyond his expectations. Bang! 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 Elvi Haotian's offensive didn't stop in the slightest, but the moment the purple light was blocked, the surrounding purple shadows were like clones shooting out purple light like rain, densely enveloping Zhuowen's entire body. Pale Emperor Turtle, help me block this attack. Zhuowen hurriedly transmitted his voice. The Pale Monarch Turtle cursed in its heart, but it couldn't ignore Zhuowen. It could only grumble and enlarge the Pale Monarch furnace, covering Zhuowen entirely. Hurry up and run. When the Pale Emperor furnace blocked the purple light attack, the Pale Emperor Turtle hurriedly transmitted a message to Zhuowen. Zhuowen nodded and grabbed the shrunken Emperor Pale furnace. The torch dragon wings on his back unfurled as he flew into the distance. Lu Haotian sneered as he watched Zhuowen's departing figure. He followed closely behind. In LV Haotian's eyes, Zhuowen, who had lost the space-time wheel, was much slower. It wouldn't be difficult for him to catch up to Zhuowen. Of course, if he used the space-time wheel, he would be able to catch up to Zhuowen in an instant. However, the space-time wheel had been refined by Zhuowen, and there was still Zhuowen's imprint on it. So LV Haotian really couldn't use the space-time wheel at present. If he wanted to use the space-time wheel, he could only wait until he finished dealing with Zhuowen and find a secluded place to slowly refine it and make it his own. Of course, his primary goal now was to catch up with Zhuowen and completely eliminate this big problem in his heart. Zhuowen looked at LV Haotian, who was slowly closing the distance behind him, and his eyes suddenly became gloomy. Without the space-time wheel, there was still a considerable gap between his speed and that of a life enlightenment realm expert. It wouldn't be long before LV Haotian could completely catch up. Thinking of this, Zhuowen was a little flustered. When LV Haotian chased after Zhuowen, the rest of the cultivators also followed behind. Of course, they didn't follow very close, but hung from a distance. Obviously, they were hoping to get lucky and pick up the loot from LV Haotian. Boom, boom, boom. In the process of chasing Zhuowen, LV Haotian naturally continued to release various attacks on Zhuowen. Zhuowen used the Emperor Pill Furnace as a defensive magic weapon. Every time LV Haotian attacked, he used the Emperor Pill Furnace to resist. This also made the Emperor Pill Turtle in the Emperor Pill Furnace suffer. Although the Emperor Pill Turtle was protected by the Emperor Pill Furnace, it was not a big deal. However, every time an attack hit the surface of the Emperor Pill Furnace, it would cause the Emperor Pill Furnace to shake violently. The terrifying shaking force naturally made the Pill Emperor Tortoise and the Pill Emperor Furnace dizzy and disoriented. It almost couldn't tell its direction. This also made the Pill Emperor Tortoise hate LV Haotian as well. Zhuowen, fly towards the southeast. The guy behind us is too arrogant. Today, I, Lord Tortoise, will teach him a lesson and let him know the consequences of angering me. The Emperor Pill Turtle's voice suddenly passed into Zhuowen's mind. Zhuowen was startled. Why is this old turtle's voice so strange at this moment? Is he planning to play some kind of conspiracy? Kid, do as I say. I am much more familiar with this divine Pill secret realm than you. See if I don't kill this old guy. The Emperor Pill Turtle continued. Zhuowen nodded, changed direction, and flew to the southeast. Although he didn't know what the old turtle wanted to do, he could guess that this guy was probably trying to lure LV Haotian into the divine Pill secret realm. If he could really use the divine Pill secret realm to restrain LV Haotian, or even kill LV Haotian, Zhuowen would definitely be more than happy to do so. LV Haotian, who was chasing behind, was not suspicious. He still spared no effort to attack Zhuowen again and again. Although his speed was indeed faster than Zhuowen, Zhuowen was extremely cunning. Every time he relied on the Emperor Pill Furnace to block his attack, he would use the recoil to open a small distance between them. And it was precisely because of this that LV Haotian still couldn't catch up with Zhuowen. Cunning little bastard. LV Haotian secretly cursed. I say, haven't we arrived yet? The distance between me and LV Haotian is less than a kilometer. Maybe he will catch up with me in the next moment. Zhuowen was a little panicked. The Emperor Pill Turtle said indifferently, "We're almost there. It's just ahead." Zhuowen focused his gaze and discovered that an incomparably clear and huge lake had appeared 1,000 meters ahead. The water in this lake was very light. He could see things tens of meters below the lake. However, this lake was very deep. Tens of meters below the lake was pitch black. No one knew if there was anything under the lake. "Enter the lake," the Emperor Pill Turtle quickly said. Although Zhuowen was a little confused, he found that LV Haotian was getting closer and closer behind him. He could only follow the Emperor Pill Turtle's request and dive into the depths of the lake. LV Haotian also arrived above the lake. He didn't even think about it and went in. In his opinion, this Zhuowen couldn't make any waves at all, let alone play any tricks. The inside of the lake was extremely quiet and nothing existed. Chapter 2406. Wolf God Lake Boom. Suddenly, a terrifying sound of water breaking came from behind Zhuowen. Zhuowen didn't even think about it. She immediately placed the imperial pill furnace behind her, blocking Lu Haoqian's attack once again. The Pill Emperor turtle screamed like a pig being slaughtered from the Pill Emperor pill furnace. It cursed and swore, cursing Zhuowen and Elvi Haotian's ancestors. Zhuowen continued to go deeper, and at the same time, he sent a message to the Pill Emperor turtle. What should I do next? Continue diving. When you reach the bottom of the lake, I will give you instructions, the Pill Emperor turtle said with a grimace. Zhuowen shrugged. The Pill Emperor furnace had indeed helped him a lot. With such a strong defense, Lu Haoqian's attack did not have much effect on him. If it were not for the Pill Emperor furnace, he would have been caught by Lu Haoqian. On the other hand, Elvi Haoqian gnashed his teeth in anger. He knew that if it weren't for the Pill Emperor furnace that had ruined his plans time and time again, he wouldn't have let Zhuowen get away with it. In this way, the two of them reached the bottom of the lake. Zhuowen's face was pale, and a trace of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. Although most of the attacks were blocked by the Pill Emperor furnace, a small part of the attack still passed on to Zhuowen's body. In a short time, Zhuowen did not feel anything, but now that such a long time had passed, Zhuowen actually suffered heavy injuries. Hurry up and go forward. There is a coral reef there. Before entering the coral reef, you must push down a jade tablet in front of the coral reef, and then enter the coral reef. Remember, you must topple that jade tablet. Otherwise, everything will be for naught, the Pill Emperor turtle said in a rare, serious tone. Zhuowen hurriedly ran forward. Naturally, he kept the Pill Emperor turtle's instructions in mind. Sure enough, after a quarter of an hour, Zhuowen saw a huge coral reef in front of him. In front of the coral reefs, there was indeed a jade stone tablet. This jade stone tablet wasn't very tall. Instead, it seemed a little short. It only reached Zhuowen's waist. Zhuowen didn't think too much about it. He immediately rushed to the front of the jade stone tablet and pushed it down. Then he rushed into the coral reef. The moment Zhuowen pushed down the jade tablet, a light blue light shield immediately appeared around the coral reef. This light shield was semicircular in shape, and everything outside of the coral reef was kept out of the way. Do you think you can escape by entering the coral reef? Stupid. At this moment, Lu Haoqian also arrived at the coral reef. When he saw Zhuowen enter the coral reef, he sneered. However, just as he was about to fall into the coral reef, he crashed into the light barrier. Then, Elvi Haoqian awkwardly retreated dozens of steps and looked at the light barrier outside the coral reef with a grave expression. This light barrier wasn't simple at all. Even he couldn't break through it. Its toughness was beyond his imagination. At the same time, the originally quiet lake was now surging with undercurrents. Outside the coral reefs, pairs of scarlet eyes suddenly appeared. These eyes exuded a bloodthirsty light, as if they wanted to devour everything in the world. Lu Haoqian also noticed the countless red eyes that appeared around him, and his face suddenly became gloomy. He felt that he was fooled, but he did not understand how Zhuowen knew that there was such a mechanism at the bottom of the lake. Zhuowen was not a person from the divine pill's secret realm. Could it be a coincidence? Lu Haoqian thought. Unfortunately, his thoughts did not last long, and the sound of water splashing could be heard. The surrounding pairs of scarlet eyes quickly rushed toward Lu Haoqian. They were so fast that they arrived here in an instant. Only then did Lu Haoqian see the appearance of the owner of these scarlet eyes. It was a creature that looked very much like a wolf, but although this creature had a wolf head, the lower half of its body was like a sea lion with a black tail fin. Lu Haoqian coldly snorted and waved the purple halberd in his hand. Suddenly, the wolf-like creatures at the front were blasted into a bloody mist by Lu Haoqian's purple halberd. However, There were many of these creatures, and they surrounded Lu Haotian in a dense crowd. Moreover, when Lu Haotian killed some of the wolf-like creatures just now, the smell of blood completely stimulated the other wolf-like creatures. The other wolf-like creatures rushed toward Lu Haotian without fear of death, and they did not retreat because of the death of their companions. Lu Haotian's face was extremely ugly. He originally planned to kill the chicken to warn the monkey, but he did not expect to completely anger this group of creatures. Zhuowen, who was hiding in the coral reef, looked at the densely packed, wolf-like creatures around him and could not help but be surprised. The number of these wolf-like creatures was even more terrifying than the evil spirits he encountered in Death Valley. If Zhuowen were to face these wolf-like creatures alone, Zhuowen knew that it would be very difficult for him to escape. Moreover, he was in the water, so his speed was even more restricted. What kind of creatures are these? Zhuowen looked at the Pill Emperor turtle and asked, "This is the Wolf God Lake, and these creatures are called sea wolves. They are the only kind of creatures in the Wolf God Lake, and they are also very terrifying creatures. Because there are too many sea wolves, the entire Wolf God Lake is basically filled with sea wolves, densely packed together. Once you kill a sea wolf, you'll provoke the wrath of all the sea wolves in the Wolf God Lake. If all the sea wolves in the Wolf God Lake gang up on you, even a life-comprehending realm expert would suffer. Just wait and see. This little bastard hurt me so much, if I don't fight back, people will think I'm a sick cat." The Pill Emperor turtle said and looked at Lu Haotian, who was still fighting with the sea wolves in the distance. "But how do we get out?" Zhuowen asked with a frown. "I know the way out. When the time is right, I will tell you. Don't you want to leave this annoying guy here forever? This guy is a big problem for you, and your space-time was also taken away by him, right?" The Pill Emperor turtle said with a mischievous smile. Zhuowen nodded. What the Pill Emperor turtle said was right. Lu Haotian had chased after him several times. Moreover, Lu Haotian had put him in such a difficult situation. Zhuowen indeed wanted to eliminate him completely. However, Lu Haotian was a life enlightenment realm expert. This kind of expert was many times stronger than a half-step Void Sky Ninth Step cultivator. With his current strength, it was too difficult to kill Lu Haotian. "I know what you are worried about, but I want to tell you that the Wolf God Lake is not as simple as you think, because the Wolf God Lake is second only to the Death Valley in the Divine Pill Secret Realm. If you want to get rid of Lu Haotian, you can only do it here. Once you get out, I'm afraid it won't be so easy." The Pill Emperor turtle said. Hearing this, Zhuowen nodded and said, "So I'll just wait like this?" Chapter 2407. Mysterious Divine Lotus Whoosh. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. The sound of breaking water resounded continuously. Black shadows transformed into a terrifying black storm at the bottom of the lake, extending from the bottom of the lake to the surface. Lu Haotian was wrapped in the center of this terrifying black storm, passively blocking the surrounding sea wolves that could attack him at any time. Damn it! Lu Haotian's face was very ugly. He kept waving the purple halberd in his hand. The purple light energy was like a bomb, exploding continuously in the surroundings. It looked extremely strange and terrifying. Moreover, every time Lu Haotian wanted to escape the encirclement of the sea wolves, these sea wolves were extremely cunning. They actually pounced on Lu Haotian's head, blocking all of Lu Haotian's paths. This also caused Lu Haotian to be unable to escape the encirclement of the sea wolves. Although the sea wolves were not strong, there were too many of them. Even Lu Haotian could not afford to waste so much energy. Time gradually passed, and soon 3 days had passed. During these 3 days, Zhuowen basically sat cross-legged among the corals. At the same time, he also took a fusion divine pellet. He only had a total of 10 fusion divine pellets. After taking 1 fusion divine pellet, he found that the divine power in his body had instantly recovered to its peak. Moreover, because of the medicinal effect of the fusion divine pellet. His divine power was actually much stronger than before. And this kind of strength was not in terms of quantity. In fact, the total amount was still the same. The main thing was the change in quality. The pill emperor turtle was right. The medicinal effect of the fusion divine pellet was indeed terrifying. Just this one pellet alone made Zhou body swell, as if it was about to explode. It was hard for him to imagine that if the pill emperor turtle had not fused all the divine pellets into 10 portions, but into one, he might have really exploded and died. Thinking of this, Zhou was somewhat grateful to the pill emperor turtle. Although this guy was as unreliable as Xiaohei, his heart was not bad. Moreover, the effect of the fusion divine pellet was very strong. It had almost healed Zhou injuries. In the past 3 days, the number of waves has been increasing. That Lu Haotian is finished. The pill emperor turtle was lying on top of a coral reef at the very front. It looked at the countless black, storm-like waves in the distance with a gloating smile on its face. Zhou looked at the black storm in front of him with pity. He could even see a struggling figure in the center of the black storm. He knew that it was LV Haotian. Originally, he had some doubts about Seawolf's strength, but now it seems that his doubts were completely unnecessary. If this trend continued, LV Haotian would soon be exhausted to death. Boom! Boom! Suddenly, the huge black storm in front of him erupted with countless purple lights. The purple light grew bigger and bigger, and more terrifying. Then, the originally huge black storm was directly shattered by the purple light. Countless sea wolves were smashed into smithereens, their flesh and blood mangled. Furthermore, the purple light was getting stronger and stronger, spreading towards the upper half of the black storm. More and more sea wolves were sacrificed. What's going on? How did this Lu Haotian suddenly become strong? Inside the coral reef, Zhou pupils shrank when he saw this. The pill emperor turtle's eyes were calm as he said, "This LV Haotian should have used his trump card. However, the side effects of this trump card should be very great. I'm afraid this guy won't be able to use it for long. Even if it can't be used for long, it should be enough to completely break through the encirclement of the sea wolves." Zhou eyes were cold. Zhou wasn't a blind person. He could see at a glance how terrifying LV Haotian's power was. At least, it wouldn't be difficult for him to break through the encirclement of these sea wolves. I already said that the wolf god lake is not that simple. The more sea wolves Lu Haotian kills, the more unlucky he will be. You can keep watching. The pill emperor turtle said with a mocking smile. Zhou looked at the confident pill emperor turtle. His eyes were filled with doubt. Could it be that the wolf god lake had some sort of secret? Although Zhou wanted to ask, he knew that he wouldn't be able to get anything out of the pill emperor turtle when he saw its current state. Chi! Chi! The more the purple light spread, the greater the obstruction, and the slower the speed of its ascent. At the center of the purple light, LV Haotian's eyes were red. A huge illusory, heavenly bridge was floating behind him. The first 8 steps of LV Haotian's illusory, heavenly bridge were all lit up. On the 9th step, a green lotus full of vitality was floating. This was the mysterious life, divine lotus. Only when a cultivator advanced to the life enlightenment realm, this mysterious life, divine lotus, would bloom on the 9th step of the illusory, heavenly bridge. The main function of the mysterious life, divine lotus, was to provide a steady stream of mysterious life, divine power for the cultivator. It could be said that the life enlightenment realm cultivators relied on the mysterious life, divine lotus to have a qualitative change in their divine power. This was also the main reason why they were much stronger than cultivators below the illusory heavenly bridge. At this moment, LV Haotian stepped onto the 9th step. He held the mysterious life divine lotus with his right hand and suddenly released it. Suddenly, the green mysterious life divine lotus slowly floated in the air and rushed up. The purple light that was originally obstructed by the sea wolves condensed into a purple vortex the moment the mysterious life, divine lotus approached. Its power increased greatly, and the speed of its ascent suddenly increased. Let's leave this damned place first. When the time comes, I'll find Zhuowen to settle the score. LV Haotian's face was pale. He had no choice but to release the mysterious life, divine lotus. One had to know that the mysterious life, divine lotus was very powerful, but it was also very fragile. If a cultivator of the same level was here, it would be very easy for them to use the mysterious life, divine lotus against him. However, LV Haotian had no choice. Otherwise, he wouldn't have released the mysterious life, divine lotus. Countless sea wolves were crushed by the purple light, and LV Haotian was getting closer and closer to the surface of the lake. Looking at the lake getting closer and closer, LV Haotian's eyes revealed a happy expression. He knew that he was about to leave this damned place. As for the matter of chasing after Zhuowen, he didn't even think about it now. He was about to lose his life. How could he still think about chasing after Zhuowen? Roar! Suddenly, the remaining sea wolves that were lucky enough to survive let out sorrowful cries. Their cries were sorrowful and painful, as if they were asking for help. Their cries were distant and spread far and wide. Roar! The moment these sorrowful cries were heard, a thunderous roar came from the deepest part of the lake, as if it was responding to the sorrowful cries of the sea wolves. This roar was extremely terrifying and deafening. Even Zhuowen couldn't help but cover his ears with a look of horror in his eyes. With his current realm, to be able to give him a deafening feeling, how powerful would one need to be able to do this? The owner of this roar was definitely a terrifying existence. Chapter 2408. The Terrifying Wolf God Splash. Zhuowen was horrified to find that the terrifying water current was actually causing the huge light barrier on the surface of the coral reef to tremble violently. This sturdy light barrier seemed to be on the verge of collapsing in the water current. Just the water current alone was already so terrifying. He wondered how terrifying the owner of the water current was. Thinking of this, Zhuowen's gaze became even more fearful. On the contrary, the pale emperor turtle was calm and composed, as if it already knew this would happen. In the depths of the coral reef, a pair of incomparably huge scarlet eyes could be seen. This pair of eyes was extremely huge, even bigger than Zhuowen's entire body. At first glance, it was very frightening. Then, a huge monster swept out from the depths of the coral reef. The water current it stirred up was like a water dragon, bombarding the light barrier, causing the light barrier to shake even more violently. Zhuowen was extremely worried that the light barrier of the coral reef would shatter in the next moment. Therefore, he secretly prepared himself. However, Zhuowen's worries were obviously unnecessary. Although the light barrier above the coral reef looked like it would shatter at any time, it was still extremely sturdy in the face of the terrifying water current. When this huge monster swept over the coral reef, it paused for a moment. It only glanced at Zhuowen and the pale emperor turtle below before ignoring them. Instead, it suddenly rushed out and swept towards LV Haotian in the distance. What kind of creature is this? It's so powerful. Zhuowen looked at the gigantic creature in the distance. This gigantic creature had an incomparably large wolf head. As for its streamlined body, it was covered with densely packed hard scales. Anyone could tell how hard those scales were. This is the wolf god. The wolf god lake is also named after this wolf god. All the sea wolves in the wolf god lake are the descendants of the wolf god. Generally speaking, the wolf god doesn't appear in the world. However, this guy LV Haotian has gone too far. He killed so many sea wolves. Do you think the wolf god will let him go? The pale monarch turtle sneered and continued. The wolf god's strength should be at the enlightenment realm. But in the wolf god lake, the wolf god has a unique advantage and can unleash its full strength. As for that LV Hautian, he was already seriously injured and consumed a lot of his divine power by the countless sea wolves. Now that he has encountered the wolf god, Zhuowen nodded. This wolf god gave him a very strong sense of crisis, even stronger than Lu Haoqian at his peak. Even if LV Haotian was in his peak state right now, he might not be a match for wolf god. I say, old turtle, my time and space wheel is still in LV Haotian's hands. Can I snatch the spirit ring from that old guy when these two guys are fighting? Zhuowen asked. Yes, but you have to avoid those sea wolves. Take some of the corals here and cover yourself with them. Then sneak over, the Pill Emperor turtle said calmly. Zhuowen was a little puzzled. Could it be that this coral reef can help me not be discovered? The Pill Emperor turtle said indifferently, You are right. This coral reef is indeed useful. Otherwise, if you go out like this, wouldn't you be courting death? Although Zhuowen still had some doubts in his heart, thinking of the importance of the time and space wheel to him, he was willing to take this risk. Thinking of this, Zhuowen quickly collected a lot of corals around him. Then he used his divine power to mix the corals into a thick paste and covered it all over his body. After doing this, Zhuowen's attention was focused on LV Haotian in the distance. At this moment, LV Haotian was very close to the surface of the lake. Within 10 breaths of time, he could definitely drill out of the lake. But what LV Haotian didn't expect was that the real master of the wolf god lake would appear. Boom! The terrifying sound of water exploded like thunder. Then, streams of water, like angry dragons, instantly broke through the purple light above LV Haotian. LV Haotian's pupils shrank. With a wave of his sleeve, he immediately took back the mysterious life, divine, lotus above him. At the same time, he took the illusory bridge and retreated rapidly. He looked at the huge monster behind him with an extremely unfriendly gaze. The arrival of the wolf god also caused the surrounding sea wolves to stop their movements. They all surrounded the wolf god and let out a series of mournful cries, as if they were complaining about something. You killed so many of my descendants, and you want to leave just like that? The wolf god's scarlet eyes stared coldly at LV Haotian. His gaze was extremely unfriendly. LV Haotian took a few steps back and looked at the huge monster with fear. He could feel a strong sense of danger from the wolf god. He knew that this monster was very powerful, even stronger than him at his peak. I didn't mean to offend you. I only entered this place because I was chasing a person, but your descendants indiscriminately surrounded me, so I fought to protect myself, LV Haotian said politely. The wolf god sneered and said, No matter what my descendants did, you have no right to kill them wantonly. Now that you have killed my descendants, you can exchange a life for a life. LV Haotian's expression changed drastically. He kicked his right foot and immediately fled upward. Unfortunately, the wolf god suddenly swung his tail, and a terrifying huge tail fin came crashing down like a wave. LV Haotian didn't even think about it. He took out the mysterious life, divine lotus, and blocked in front of him. The mysterious life, divine energy in the mysterious life, divine lotus was extremely powerful. The moment the divine lotus was taken out, the divine lotus bloomed. The terrifying mysterious life, divine energy, was like a rising tide that suddenly exploded. Boom! The tail fin and the divine lotus collided heavily. Immediately, countless water whirlpools erupted in the depths of the lake. LV Haotian's eyes were filled with fear. Even if he used the mysterious life divine lotus to block it, it was still difficult. Pucci! LV Haotian spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was extremely pale. His whole body was still holding the mysterious life divine lotus with both hands as he continued to sink. The wolf god's tail fin mercilessly bombarded LV Haotian. This really made LV Haotian suffer. Although the mysterious life divine lotus was extremely powerful and was the essence of LV Haotian's countless years of cultivation, it still paled in comparison to the wolf god's power. At this moment, the scene was extremely funny. The wolf god swung his tail fin and hit Elvi Houtian's body like a pile. Elvi Houtian, on the other hand, was holding the mysterious life divine lotus with both hands. He stood there in an extremely sorry state, following the movements of the wolf god's tail fin. He was constantly being blasted down, and he was sinking deeper and deeper. His clothes were almost stained with blood, and it was a shocking sight. At this moment, Elvi Houtian really couldn't speak of his suffering. He even cursed Zhuowen's 18 generations of ancestors in his heart. Chapter 2409. Elvi Houtian's death. The wolf god was too powerful. This kind of power made Elvi Houtian feel a sense of despair. If Elvi Houtian was not injured and was at his peak, he was confident that he could escape from the wolf god. But now, Elvi Houtian's injuries were too serious. In addition, he was tricked by Zhuowen several times before, so he did not care about his injuries. Now, the side effects suddenly appeared. Boom! The wolf god did not care what Elvi Houtian was thinking. He did not care at all and smashed down with his tail fin. Elvi Houtian only felt his whole body tremble. His face was incomparably red, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. His hands almost lost their grip on the mysterious life lotus. Just as Elvi Houtian's entire body was shaking from the impact of the tail fin and was about to roll over, a sharp divine sword suddenly appeared in Elvi Houtian's right hand. By the time Elvi Houtian realized it, it was already too late. The divine sword quickly cut off Elvi Houtian's right arm. Then a white hand pulled Elvi Houtian's right arm over. Pucci! How could Elvi Houtian expect this to happen so suddenly? By the time he reacted, his right arm had already been cut off and taken away. Zhuowen, you little bastard! I won't let you go even if I become a ghost. Elvi Houtian's reaction was very fast. He immediately noticed that the owner who cut off his arm was Zhuowen, who was quietly approaching. And it was also because Elvi Houtian's attention was completely attracted by Zhuowen that Elvi Houtian did not notice that the wolf god waved his tail fin again and smashed it down fiercely. Pucci! Elvi Houtian, who was not on guard, was directly hit by the tail fin. His whole body burst into a bloody mist, and his only remaining hand was directly blown apart. The mysterious life lotus in his hand was also thrown away, and its light dimmed. Elvi Houtian's whole body quickly fell to the bottom of the lake, but his resentful voice did not stop, and he kept on muttering Zhuowen's name. Zhuowen's eyes flashed, and he kept the mysterious life divine lotus that was thrown away. This thing was the source of power for the life enlightening realm, and it should be of great help to him in the future. After doing all this, Zhuowen didn't even hesitate as he rushed towards the surface of the wolf god lake. With such a terrifying existence like the wolf god, how could Zhuowen dare to stay here any longer? And because he was covered in coral juice, the surrounding sea wolves turned a blind eye to him. The wolf god looked indifferently at Zhuowen, who was leaving. It had naturally noticed this human long ago. If it wanted to, killing this ant-like human would be as easy as flipping its hand, but it didn't. Pill Emperor Turtle, I'll let you off this time for the sake of the Pill Emperor Fire. If you use me as a shield again, don't blame me for attacking you. A distant voice slowly passed into the depths of Zhuowen's mind. Zhuowen clearly felt the Pill Emperor Turtle in his hand suddenly tremble. Obviously, it was very afraid of the wolf god's words. Zhuowen realized that the reason the wolf god didn't chase them was all because of the Pill Emperor Turtle. Zhuowen finally looked back at the bottom of the wolf god lake and found that the densely packed sea wolves were all rushing towards the place where Elvi Houtian was at the bottom of the lake. Zhuowen could even hear Elvi Houtian's miserable screams. He knew that Elvi Houtian was completely finished. Under the suppression of the wolf god, Elvi Houtian was probably going to be eaten by countless sea wolves. Thinking that a life-enlightening realm expert of a generation actually died here, Zhuowen sighed in his heart. However, he was more happy. After all, Elvi Houtian was Zhuowen's mortal enemy. Now that he could get rid of him, he was naturally happy. Whoosh! The moment Zhuowen broke out of the water, he immediately felt many gazes directed at him. Then he discovered that there were actually many cultivators gathered around the Wolf God Lake. Among them, there were also 5 half-step, 9th-step Void Realm experts, including the black-robed man. At this moment, all the cultivators looked at Zhuowen with tacit understanding, and all of them fell into a strange silence. Most of the cultivators' gazes fell on the severed arm in Zhuowen's hand and the multiple-birth, mysterious, divine lotus. Zhuowen didn't even look at these cultivators. Instead, he fled into the distance. He knew that most of these cultivators followed LV Haotian here to pick up a bargain. He was too lazy to care about them. Not long after Zhuowen left, the cultivators around the Wolf God Lake were in an uproar. They clearly heard LV Haotian's resentful voice from outside. Now, in this strange lake, only Zhuowen appeared. On the contrary, LV Haotian was nowhere to be seen. Such a result couldn't help but make many of the cultivators present let their imagination run wild. The arm in Zhuowen's hand just now, could it be LV Haotian's arm? I remember LV Haotian's spirit ring. The black-robed man suddenly said, "Impossible, right? Although Zhuowen is strong, he's only at the peak of the 7th step Void Realm. How could he be LV Haotian's opponent?" One of the cultivators retorted, "I think it's very possible. Didn't you hear LV Haotian scream just now? Maybe LV Haotian was really killed?" Another cultivator said. The black-robed man said coldly, "Did you see the lotus in Zhuowen's hand? That's the mysterious life, divine lotus. It's a divine lotus that automatically condenses when a life enlightenment realm expert climbs the 9th step of the void, heavenly bridge. And this mysterious life divine lotus is the source of life enlightenment realm experts' mysterious life divine force. It's more important than life. Do you think LV Haotian would give this mysterious life divine lotus to Zhuowen other than cutting off his arm and giving it to Zhuowen?" As soon as the black-robed man said this, the surrounding people fell into silence. Although many people didn't want to believe that Zhuowen really killed LV Haotian, the details listed by the black-robed man showed that what they didn't want to believe was true. LV Haotian was dead, and he died because of Zhuowen. Although they didn't know how Zhuowen did it, the same thought arose in everyone's mind. They absolutely couldn't provoke Zhuowen. Once they did, the consequences would be unimaginable. In the following period of time, the news of LV Haotian's death gradually spread inside the divine pill's secret realm. And Zhuowen, who killed LV Haotian, was once again remembered by many cultivators. Originally, many cultivators coveted Zhuowen's life or death pill, but after knowing that LV Haotian died because of Zhuowen, many cultivators gave up looking for Zhuowen. On the contrary, many cultivators specifically remembered Zhuowen's appearance and aura so that if they met him in the divine pill's secret realm, they would immediately stay away from him. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to keep their lives. LV Haotian is dead. How did Zhuowen do it? Chapter 2410. A considerable harvest after separating from Yao Xiangjuan and the others. Palace Master Jingyan had been looking for Zhuowen's whereabouts. However, she didn't find any trace of Zhuowen. Instead, she heard the news of Lu Haotian's death. Moreover, she later learned that Lu Haotian was killed by Zhuowen. Palace Master Jing naturally didn't believe this. Although Zhuowen's strength wasn't ordinary, it wasn't enough to kill a life-enlightening realm expert. I'm afraid that Lu Haotian's death has something to do with this lake. However, Zhuowen was able to escape from this lake and even killed Lu Haotian. It can be seen that this child really can't be underestimated. Palace Master Jingyan's shapely eyebrows relaxed. She guessed the answer that was closest to the truth. It had to be said that Palace Master Jingyan was much calmer than Lu Haotian, whether it was her way of doing things or her way of thinking. It could be seen that although Palace Master Jingyan's strength was about the same as Lu Haotian's, she was definitely much more difficult to deal with than Lu Haotian. Palace Master Jingyan's shapely eyebrows slightly wrinkled. Her powerful divine sense slowly penetrated into the depths of the lake. She wanted to carefully investigate what was strange about this lake. Palace Master Jing Yun originally gave up her eyes and focused on cultivating her divine soul. Her divine sense was much stronger than Zhuowen's. Of course, the most important thing was that Palace Master Jingyan's cultivation was much higher than Zhuowen's. If Zhuowen was also in the life-enlightening realm, with his terrifying starry sky divine soul, his divine sense would definitely far surpass Palace Master Jingyan's. However, Zhuowen's current cultivation was too low. The gap between his divine sense and Palace Master Jingyan's divine sense was still very big. Palace Master Jingyan's divine sense extended into the bottom of the lake. Soon, she found a very familiar corpse in a coral reef at the bottom of the lake. Only bones were left of this corpse. The clothes on his body were also tattered. However, she still recognized this corpse from the tattered clothes. Wasn't this Lu Haotian? Palace Master Jing Yun carefully observed Lu Haotian's corpse. She found that Lu Haotian's injuries were as if he had been gnawed by some kind of creature. His corpse was almost distorted and incomplete. The condition of Lu Haotian's corpse strengthened Palace Master Jingyun's guess. Humph. Suddenly, a terrifying divine sense gushed out from the depths of the lake and fiercely bombarded Palace Master Jingyun's divine sense. Palace Master Jing Yun couldn't help but let out a muffled groan as she hurriedly withdrew her divine sense from the bottom of the lake. This is the wolf deity lake, my territory. Please do not casually explore this lake. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite. When Palace Master Jing Yun retracted her consciousness, a cold voice echoed in her mind. After a moment of silence, Palace Master Jing Yun cupped her fists and said, "I have no intention of offending you. Farewell." After saying that, Palace Master Jing Yun left the Divine Wolf Lake. Although she hadn't exchanged blows with the master of the Divine Wolf Lake, she could tell that he was at least a life-comprehending realm expert from the powerful divine sense he had just displayed. He might even be more terrifying than an ordinary life-comprehending realm expert. Therefore, Palace Master Jing Yun cleverly admitted defeat and immediately left the Wolf God Lake. At the bottom of the Divine Wolf Lake, the wolf deity's scarlet eyes looked coldly at Palace Master Jing Yun's departing figure. It didn't chase after her. Palace Master Jing Yun's aura was very strong, and she didn't provoke it. Therefore, it didn't need to exchange blows with such an expert. Ever since the incident at the Divine Wolf Lake, Zhuowen's fame in the divine Pale Secret Realm had increased exponentially. When all the cultivators talked about Zhuowen, their eyes would be filled with fear. As the main character of this incident, Zhuowen was currently hiding in a secluded cave, inspecting his spoils of war. This time, Zhuowen had obtained the spirit rings of 12 half-step Void Sky Realm experts, including the Begonia Elder, and the life-comprehending realm expert, Lu Haotian. Although Zhuowen had yet to open their spirit rings, he could guess that the things in these spirit rings must be extremely precious. First, Zhuowen opened the spirit rings of the Begonia Elder and the other 12 people. When Zhuowen discovered the terrifyingly rich resources in the spirit rings of the Begonia Elder and the others, the calmness in his eyes could no longer be maintained. They were filled with passion and excitement. The resources in each of the spirit rings of the Begonia Elder and the other 12 people were almost the same as the resources in Zhuowen's spirit ring. Although Zhuowen was only a 7th step Void Sky Realm cultivator, he had endless opportunities. His wealth had long left other cultivators in the same realm far behind. Even ordinary half-step Void Sky Realm cultivators might not be as rich as Zhuowen. However, the Begonia Elder and the other 12 people were different. They weren't ordinary half-step Void Sky Realm cultivators. Each of them had lived for a very long time. although they might not be the strongest in the same realm. They had lived for too long. Naturally, they had accumulated a huge amount of wealth that was far beyond the imagination of ordinary people. Although the resources in the spirit rings might only be a portion, it was still enough to make Zhuo have a whole new level of respect for them, especially the Begonia Elder's spirit ring. The resources were the most abundant. There were tens of thousands of high-grade divine pills and supreme-grade divine stones everywhere. There were also many void sky divine tools. Of course, there were also secondary heaven-breaking divine tools, but there were only 2 of them. After inspecting the 12 spirit rings one by one, the smile on Zhuowen's face became even wider. He knew that just the resources in these 12 spirit rings had far exceeded his imagination. He hadn't even started looking at Lv Haotian's spirit ring. Lv Haotian was a life-enlightening realm expert, so the things in his spirit ring must be even more abundant. What a powerful restriction! However, when Zhuo habitually tried to break the restriction on Lv Haotian's spirit ring, he found that he was obstructed. The restriction on Lv Haotian's spirit ring was much stronger than the other 12 spirit rings. I don't believe it. Zhuo didn't believe it and tried his best to circulate the divine force in his body. At the same time, his hands formed a series of seals, hoping to break the restriction on Lv Haotian's spirit ring. Unfortunately, Zhuo tried more than 10 times, but the restriction on the spirit ring was as immovable as a mountain. It was impossible to move it. Zhuo was unwilling to give up and frowned as he looked at the spirit ring in front of him. The restriction set up by a life-enlightening realm expert is not so easy to break. The restriction in this spirit ring is not formed by ordinary divine force, but the mysterious life divine force. Unless you use a space-time divine ability, you might be able to forcefully break the restriction, but you might also destroy the spirit ring and destroy the things inside. The Pill Emperor tortoise laid on the ground with the pill furnace on its back and slowly turned its head to look at Zhuo. Zhuo didn't say anything, but he was unwilling to give up. I wonder if Lv Haotian's mysterious life divine lotus can break the restriction on this spirit ring. Zhuo seemed to have thought of something and immediately took out a green lotus from the spirit ring. He held the lotus with one hand and brought it to the side of the spirit ring. Chapter 24:11. Everlasting Ice Lotuses, Abnormality. Zhuo heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed like the mysterious life lotus was still useful. However, just as Zhuo was about to open Lv Haotian's spirit ring, a strange sound came from his spirit ring. Zhuo frowned, and then he flicked his sleeve and withdrew a crystalline and translucent ice lotus. As soon as the ice lotus appeared, a wave of terrifying cold air spread out, causing Zhuo's eyes to brighten slightly. It was the everlasting ice lotus. Ever since the everlasting ice lotus devoured the ice origin, its power had increased greatly. However, the ice origin was too powerful. Occasionally, when Zhuo used the everlasting ice lotus, the ice origin would not cooperate with him. Hence, he could not unleash the everlasting ice lotus's full power. Because of this, Zhuo rarely used the everlasting ice lotus. Moreover, the everlasting ice lotus had been damaged in the last battle, so Zhuo let the everlasting ice lotus recuperate on its own and tried not to use it. Now that the mysterious life lotus had caused the everlasting ice lotus to react, Zhuo was a little surprised and puzzled. However, he still took out the everlasting ice lotus immediately. After the everlasting ice lotus was taken out, it disappeared with a swoosh and landed on top of the mysterious life lotus. Then, Zhuo was shocked to find that the mysterious life lotus, which contained a terrifying mysterious life divine power, was gradually withering. The surging mysterious life divine power in the mysterious life lotus was being ruthlessly absorbed by the everlasting ice lotus. After a while, the mysterious life lotus completely withered and became lifeless. In the end, it was completely annihilated. On the other hand, Although the surface of the everlasting ice lotus was still crystal clear, Zhuowen could feel that the everlasting ice lotus contained an extremely powerful life, divine power. It actually devoured the mysterious life, divine power of the mysterious life, lotus. Your ice lotus is not simple. Where did it come from? Pill Emperor Turtle also noticed this and could not help but ask in surprise. Zhuowen fell into deep thought. He had obtained the ice origin of the everlasting ice lotus in that mysterious small world. It was also there that he had first met Ma Yujie. In fact, when Ma Yujie was frozen between the corpses of the Devourer King and the five-clawed golden dragon, Zhuowen already felt that something was wrong. He didn't think that the ice origin would be powerful enough to freeze so many powerful creatures in the ice tower. Now that the ice origin within the everlasting ice lotus had actually taken the initiative to devour the mysterious life, divine lotus, this made Zhuowen even more certain that the ice origin he obtained from the small world was not that simple. In addition, Ma Yujie really wanted the ice source in Zhuowen's hands. If it weren't for Zhuowen's quick reaction, the ice source would have become Ma Yujie's. No, why does this ice source feel so similar to the eternal time in the river of space-time quicksand? Zhuowen held the everlasting ice lotus in his hand. The more he looked at it, the more familiar it felt. Soon he realized that the ice origin was not really ice formed by water, but a kind of ice formed by water due to the eternal time stoppage. The small world that Zhuowen had entered back then was probably a time stoppage. However, Zhuowen had never considered it because of his preconceived notions. Now that Zhuowen had entered the river of space-time quicksand and seen the eternal time stoppage, he realized that the ice origin and the eternal time stoppage were similar. It seems that the small world back then might have something to do with the space-time master. Otherwise, that small world would not have been time stoppage. The more Zhuowen thought about it, the more he felt that Ma Yujie might have something to do with the space-time master. Of course, Zhuowen did not know what kind of relationship it was. Zhuowen shook his head. He realized that the more he thought about it, the more confused his mind became. The relationship he wanted became more and more complicated. Of course, he was even more curious about Ma Yujie's identity. Although this fatty looked funny, he hid it very well. Your ice lotus contains LV Haotian's mysterious life, divine power. If you can control it, this mysterious life, divine power will belong to you. With the mysterious life, divine power, I'm afraid that cultivators below the life enlightenment realm are simply cannon fodder to you. Pill Emperor Turtle interrupted Zhuowen's thoughts and clicked his tongue in wonder. Zhuowen then noticed the everlasting ice lotus in his hand. Pill Emperor Turtle was right. After absorbing the mysterious life, divine lotus, the everlasting ice lotus's aura was extremely powerful. Furthermore, Zhuowen also discovered that if he used his mind, the mysterious life, divine power within the everlasting ice lotus could indeed be used according to his wishes. The mysterious life, divine power was the energy source of the life enlightenment realm. It was equivalent to the human heart. It was used to supply the life enlightenment realm experts with the life enlightenment realm's mysterious life, divine power. However, because the life enlightenment realm cultivators were alive, the mysterious life, divine power in the mysterious life, divine lotus could be produced continuously. However, Zhuowen knew that the owner of this mysterious life, divine lotus, was already dead. Therefore, once the mysterious life, divine power was used up, no new mysterious life, divine power would be produced. However, the power of this everlasting ice lotus was still not to be underestimated. At least now, this everlasting ice lotus was definitely another trump card of his on the same level as his space-time sacred art. Moreover, because the space-time sacred art was limited by his realm, the mysterious life, divine power in the everlasting ice lotus should be even more terrifying than the space-time sacred art. With such a trump card, Zhuowen was confident that he could face a life enlightenment realm expert head-on. Opening LV Haotian's spirit ring, Zhuowen first found the space-time wheel and carefully put it away. Then he put away the other resources in the spirit ring one by one. Needless to say, the resources in LV Haotian's spirit ring were abundant. It was definitely far more than the sum of the spirit rings of the other 12 people. Zhuowen counted and happily put all the resources into his spirit ring. The Divine Pill Secret Realm is about to close. Don't you want to use the remaining time to explore? The Elixir Emperor turtle was still lying on the ground, looking at Zhuowen with its dead fish eyes. Zhuowen shook his head and said, "This time, I have collected enough divine pills. Moreover, I plan to let you help me fuse all these divine pills into fused divine pills that are suitable for me. The fused divine pills produced by your Elixir Emperor furnace are indeed magical." Zhuowen had experienced the effects of fused divine pills. It was indeed indescribable. Moreover, this Elixir Emperor turtle could be controlled by humans. During the process of fusing divine pills, it deliberately fused them into fused divine pills that were suitable for Zhuowen's physique. It could be said that a suitable fused divine pill was more useful than thousands of high-grade divine pills for a cultivator. Are you treating me as a coolie? Chapter 24:12. The Birth of the Rakshasa. King Zhuowen rolled his eyes at the Pill Emperor tortoise. This guy really had the same personality as Xiaohei. Zhuowen took out nearly half of the divine pills he had and gave them to the Pill Emperor tortoise. After asking it to refine more divine pills, he asked, "The Divine Pill Secret Realm is closing. Do you want to leave with me?" The Pill Emperor tortoise controlled the Pill Emperor furnace to collect all the divine pills. Then it looked at Zhuowen indifferently and said, "You think too much. I definitely won't leave the Divine Pill Secret Realm. After I finish refining the divine pills for you, you can leave by yourself." Zhuowen frowned but didn't say anything. After all, this was the Pill Emperor tortoise's will. He couldn't force it. Next, Zhuowen quietly cultivated at the side of the cave, while the Pill Emperor turtle fiddled with the Pill Emperor furnace to refine more fused divine pills. Of course, while the Pill Emperor tortoise was fiddling with the Pill Emperor furnace, Zhuowen was still on guard. After all, he didn't want the Pill Emperor tortoise's furnace to explode again. Even if it happened again, he would have to escape in advance. Otherwise, he would definitely be tricked to death by the Pill Emperor tortoise. Fortunately, the Pill Emperor turtle was much more proficient this time. Many days passed in a row, but there were no mishaps like the last time. Zhuowen was finally able to relax. While Zhuowen was concentrating on his secluded cultivation in his cave mansion, the other places in the Divine Pill Secret Realm were just as usual. Most of the cultivators were in groups of 3 to 5, searching for traces of divine pills. As for the matter of the life or death pill, these cultivators tacitly kept their mouths shut. Death Valley, which was surrounded by black fog all year round, was still filled with the aura of death. At this moment, 5 cultivators landed on the periphery of Death Valley. These 5 cultivators were 3 men and 2 women. One of them was a handsome young man in white robes. He was a typical pretty boy. The cultivation of these 5 cultivators wasn't high. Among them, the strongest was the white-robed young man. His cultivation should be around the 7th step of the Void Sky Realm. The other 4 cultivators were the weakest at the 4th step of the Void Sky Realm. Iran, this Death Valley is not a good place. Let's stay away from here. A woman in green robes looked at Death Valley and said with a frown. The corners of the white-clothed young man's mouth curled up slightly, but he acted as if he didn't hear what the green-dressed woman said. He smiled and said, "Do you think that my outfit is similar to Zhuowen's?" Among the 5 cultivators, the white robes of the Emperor tortoises Iran, and she looked, "Why did you deliberately dress like this today?" The woman in red woman looked at the white-robed young man in white, said. She was a little looks. The smile on the white-robed young man's face deepened, and he said, I heard that Juoin is also a cultivator with the seventh step of the Void Sky realm, but he obtained the life or death pill by luck. I can't help but admire his good luck. If I was there at that time, Juoin wouldn't have been involved, and the life or death pill would have been mine. The other black-robed man looked at the white-robed young man speechlessly and muttered in his heart, "What an idiot! Does he really think that he is Juoin just because he dresses like Juoin? Does he really think that he can obtain the life or death pill? He only knows how to daydream." The life or death pill was born here. I'll go and take a look. Maybe I can get another life or death pill. Just wait for a good show. The white-robed young man laughed and flew to the east of Death Valley. His figure was elegant and free. The black-robed man held his forehead with his right hand. This white-robed young man was just a temporary partner, and he wanted to have a chance to survive in the divine pill's secret realm. However, the black-robed man didn't expect that the white-robed young man was a Chinibu. After hearing about the deeds of Juoin, he fantasized every day that he was Juoin. In other words, he fantasized that he was an expert more powerful than Juoin, and that he would be able to snatch the life or death pill from the hands of Lu Haotian, Palace Master Jingyan, and the other experts. In the eyes of the black-robed man, this white-robed young man was simply daydreaming. The white-robed young man had just arrived above the black fog and was about to show off when a big hand suddenly grabbed him. "Let go, who are you?" The white-robed young man's face changed dramatically, and he looked at the black fog with fear. Unfortunately, the black fog was unable to clearly see the appearance of the owner of this large hand. All that could be seen was darkness. "You're too noisy. I know Juoin, and you want to criticize that Juoin? What qualifications do you have?" An indifferent voice came from the black fog. When the white-clothed young man heard this, his face immediately flushed red, and he retorted, "That Juoin is only at the seventh step of the Void Sky realm. I am also at the seventh step of the Void Sky realm. He's just a bit luckier. If I had his good luck, I wouldn't have to worry about not being able to obtain the life and death pill and raise my strength. Trash like you? Let me tell you, if that Juoin wants to kill you, he only needs to lift a finger." The voice in the black fog was full of disdain. "Nonsense!" The white-robed young man roared angrily. "Nonsense! There's no need for Juoin to make a move. I can crush you with one hand." The voice within the black fog was filled with impatience. It let out a cold snort. Immediately, the white-clothed young man let out a miserable shriek. He was crushed into a bloody mist by the large black hand. Even the illusory heavenly bridge was crushed into pieces. "Run!" When the black-robed young man saw this scene, he shouted loudly and was the first to run. Then the other three screamed and ran away. Unfortunately, for black lines shot out from the black fog and instantly pierced through the four people who were running away. The four people who were running away fell to the ground one after another. There was no breath left, and they were clearly dead. After killing the 5 people, a bloated figure slowly walked out of the black fog. When the bloated figure walked out of the black fog, one could see that this person was actually not unfamiliar to Juoin, because this person was Ma Yujia. At this moment, Ma Yujia was surrounded by 9,999 one-foot-long black candles, and each candle was burning with a pitch-black flame. When the black flame shone on Ma Yujia's face, it gave people a strange feeling. "I finally got my hands on the candle of death." Ma Yujia waved his sleeve, and the candle of death was stored in his spirit ring. Whoosh! 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 At the same time, vague figures appeared in the black fog behind him. They looked densely packed and extremely terrifying. At the front of the countless black figures was a figure that was 1,000 feet tall. He strode forward, and every step he took caused the entire Death Valley to tremble violently. It was as though an earthquake was occurring. Bang! The giant figure finally stopped behind Mayujia. Then it took down the huge, pillar-like sword on its back and stabbed it into the ground. Rumble! The long sword stabbed into the ground 10 meters in front of Mayujia. Then the surrounding ground collapsed, but the square meter where Ma Yujia was standing was intact. Luosha King, are you going to attack me? Chapter 24:13. Fear the Rakshasa King was over 300 meters tall and looked like a small mountain. Meanwhile, the countless evil spirits that surged out of Death Valley all stopped behind Rakshasa King, not daring to move recklessly. The Rakshasa King was covered in countless skeletons with a skull necklace around his neck and a skull helmet on his head. Even the long sword on the ground was cold and pale. It was obviously made of countless skeletons. 3 tall figures stood proudly beside the Rakshasa King. The 3 figures were very tall, about 30 meters tall, and their auras were much stronger than the evil spirits behind them. The 3 figures were Rakshasa guards that were carefully selected by the Rakshasa King. Each of them had been through hundreds of battles and were brave and good at fighting. They were the Rakshasa King's most capable left and right arms. The Rakshasa King's cold eyes stared at Join's back through the skull helmet and said, "What's your origin? You actually have the golden Hornray flag and broke the seal of the death candle." Ma Yujia slowly turned around, looked up at the mountain-like Luosha King and said, "Perhaps you have already guessed my origins. I think it's best if you follow me. I can guarantee that your life in the future will be many times better than being with the D-Dan fire." The Rakshasa King's eyes flickered. He paused for a moment and sneered. "The deep hill fire created me, so he's my master. Do you think I'll betray my master?" But Ma Yujia burst into laughter and said, "Rakshasa King, this excuse of yours really makes me laugh my head off. I think you know better than me why the Deep Hill Fire built Death Valley in the divine Pill's secret realm and cultivated undead spirits. His goal is only to continuously cultivate life and death pellets. You are all just nutrients for the cultivation of life and death pellets. However, he didn't expect that he would inadvertently cultivate a big guy like you. It's a pleasant surprise." A hint of disdain appeared in Ma Yuji's eyes as he continued. "But the Emperor Pill Fire is very wary of you. Later on, when it was injured, it set up 9,999 death candles in advance in order to restrain you." Rakshasa King fell into silence. He hesitated for a moment before saying coldly, "Hand over the candle of death on you, and we'll be even." Ma Yujia sneered and said, "We don't owe each other anything. Now you owe me a big favor. If you don't appreciate it, then forget it. However, I have almost figured out how to use this death candle. If you want to be sealed again, then you can boldly try it." "How dare you speak to His Majesty like that?" Among the 3 Rakshasas standing behind the Rakshasa King, one of the Rakshasas with a graceful figure suddenly shouted. The Rakshasa's skin was dark green, and this female Rakshasa was also 30 meters tall. Although her face was extremely beautiful, her skin color and height immediately made her lose the delicate and beautiful feeling of a human woman. Ma Yujia sneered and waved his sleeve. Immediately, 9 death candles shot out from his sleeve. The 9 death candles silently surrounded the female Rakshasa in an instant. Then the black candle flames connected together like black threads and spread out. It was as if countless threads of lightning were blasting into the female Rakshasa's body. Ah! The female Rakshasa immediately let out a miserable shriek. The flames of the candle of death had an absolute suppressive effect on them to begin with. Now that Ma Yujia had taken out 9 candle of death, it was extremely painful and torturous for her. "I'm talking to your master. Why are you interrupting?" Ma Yujia said indifferently, "Master, help me. I'm in so much pain." The female Rakshasa begged the Rakshasa King. The Rakshasa King looked at the female Rakshasa indifferently and then ignored her. Instead, he looked deeply at Ma Yujia and said, "Looks like you really know how to use this death candle. However, I'm afraid it won't be that easy for you to seal me again. You can try." Ma Yujia smiled faintly. The Rakshasa King immediately frowned. Clearly, He realized that this ordinary-looking fatty in front of him had become a lot more difficult to deal with. "You're not qualified for me to follow you, so you should give up," the Rakshasa king said proudly. However, Mayujya shook his head and said, "Looks like you still don't understand. However, it doesn't matter. It's fine if you don't follow me, but we can work together." "Work together? Work together for what?" the Rakshasa king asked in surprise. "I want the thing under Death Valley. Tell me its exact location," Mayujya said seriously. The Rakshasa king was shocked and said, "How do you know?" "You don't have to care about how I know. Now tell me the entrance. Consider this my reward for helping you break the seal. Also, don't think about killing me with your own strength. With the death candle you can't kill me," Mayujya said confidently. The Rakshasa king looked hesitant. The death candle was indeed very effective against him. Moreover, the fatty in front of him knew how to use the death candle. Just as Mayujya said, he really couldn't do anything to Mayujya now. "I'm not too sure what's under Death Valley. Back then, the Emperor Pillfire warned me not to touch that thing. Otherwise, there would be a bloody disaster. Why are you looking for that thing?" The Rakshasa king said unhappily, "You just need to tell me the exact location of the entrance. As for what I can do, it has nothing to do with you." Mayujya said coldly. The Rakshasa king looked pensive. Although he had always known that there was something under Death Valley, he had never gone in to see what it was. He had only heard about it from the Emperor Pillfire. Moreover, the Emperor Pillfire had very seriously said that the thing under Death Valley was an ominous thing, and it was best not to touch it. At that time, the Rakshasa king didn't care. Moreover, the entrance had a very terrifying restriction, so he didn't go in. "I'll send you the information about the entrance through telepathy." The Rakshasa king finally nodded in agreement. After sending Mayujya the exact location through telepathy, he drew his long sword and carried it on his shoulder. Mayujya nodded. Then he turned into a wisp of green smoke and burrowed into Death Valley. Clearly, he was looking for the so-called entrance. Mayujya's main purpose of rescuing the Rakshasa king, this time, wasn't to let the Rakshasa king follow him. His main purpose was to learn about the passage that led to the bottom of Death Valley from the Rakshasa king. And now he had indeed achieved his goal. The Rakshasa king looked indifferently at the departing Mayujya. The 9 death candles beside the female Rakshasa had already been put away by Mayujya. At that moment, the female Rakshasa king was looking at Mayujya's back with hatred. "Master, are we going to let this human go just like that?" The female Rakshasa king said unwillingly, "You still want to keep him? If you think it's possible, then keep him." The Rakshasa king said indifferently. Chapter 24:14. Army of evil spirits. Mayujya had 9,999 death candles with him. Facing such a terrifying number of death candles, she would be courting death. "Let's go. Kill all the human cultivators in the divine Pill secret realm. In the future, our territory will no longer be limited to Death Valley. The entire divine Pill secret realm will be ours." The Rakshasa king's deep voice rang out. He held the giant bone sword in his right hand and swung it forward. Instantly, a terrifying gust of wind swept up like a storm. Under the gust of wind, the ground in front of him was shattered into dust, turning into a terrifying ruin. Roar! 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 Roars rose and fell one after another. Then the army of evil spirits behind the Rakshasa king swept out like a swarm of locusts. The scene was like a black cloud pressing down on the ground. The entire ground was dyed black, and the original color of the ground could not be seen clearly. "The 3 of you, go and find the exit of the divine Pill secret realm. Seal the exit for me." The Rakshasa king looked at the 3 Rakshasas beside him and waved his huge palm. Instantly, a black energy, like black smoke, fell on the 3 Rakshasas. When the black smoke dispersed, the 3 of them found out that it was 3 black stones. The black stones looked ordinary, but the three Rakshasas did not dare to underestimate them. They knew that the black stones contained the Rakshasa king's power. When they sealed the exit, they would definitely need the Rakshasa king's power. Otherwise, if a life enlightenment realm cultivator appeared, the three of them might not be able to stop him. Yes, master. The three of them took the three black stones and turned into three black shadows and left the place. After being sealed for so long, my strength has been greatly reduced. I'm afraid that I'm only equivalent to a life enlightenment realm cultivator. Now, I need to recover my strength as soon as possible. The Rakshasa king mumbled to himself, and the bloodthirsty light in his eyes became more intense. The Rakshasa king had already thought of a shortcut to recover his strength. It was to directly consume the flesh and blood of cultivators to quickly recover his strength. Moreover, the stronger a cultivator was, the stronger the divine power contained in his flesh and blood, and the better the effect on his recovery. Under the command of the Rakshasa king, batches of evil spirits began to spread towards other areas of the divine pill secret realm. However, many cultivators in the divine pill secret realm were still unaware of what was going on. They were still exploring the divine pill secret realm, hoping to obtain more divine pills. Moreover, as the closing time of the divine pill secret realm was approaching, many of the cultivators felt a sense of urgency. Thus, they became even more diligent in exploring the secret realm. In a lush and verdant forest region, the trees that grew here could be described as towering trees. Every single one of them pierced through the clouds. It was an extremely spectacular sight. There were quite a number of cultivators gathered in this dense forest. The main reason for this was that some time ago, a place of treasure had appeared in the woods. Many high-ranked pills were scattered around the place, causing many cultivators to fight for them. Because of the appearance of this place of treasure, many cultivators gathered in this dense forest to continue their exploration. In their opinion, this dense forest was so big. Since there was a place of treasure, it was impossible for there to be only one place of treasure. There must be a few more. Therefore, they were all hoping to get lucky and didn't want to leave this dense forest. This was also the reason why the number of cultivators in this dense forest was so high. On the branch of a huge tree in the southwest part of the dense forest, there were two graceful and beautiful figures. One of them was an ordinary-looking woman. She patted her heaving chest and said in surprise, "Luckily, we left quickly. Otherwise, we would have been surrounded by others." The woman standing in front of the ordinary-looking woman was wearing an elegant veil. Her skin was fair and white, and her beautiful face was revealed. This woman's beauty had definitely reached the level of being able to cause the downfall of a country. With just a single glance, she could make people's eyes light up, and they would be attracted to her face for a long time. "Senior Sister Yao, it's all thanks to you this time. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't know how to sneak away." The ordinary-looking woman looked at the beautiful woman in front of her with gratitude in her beautiful eyes. The beautiful woman smiled and said, "Junior Sister Zhu Fei, if it weren't for you, we wouldn't have found that place of treasure. Although we only got 30% of the pills inside, it's enough. When we get to a safe place, we'll split the pills in half." Needless to say, these two women were Zhu Ruei and Yao Xiangjuan from the Six Desires Heavenly Palace. Since the two women parted with Palace Master Jingyan, they had reunited to explore the divine pill secret realm together. The two women were quite lucky. They had gained a lot along the way, and they could often find some scattered pills. This time, when they entered this dense forest, Zhu Ruei accidentally stumbled into a place of treasure. After thoroughly searching this place of treasure, they caused a big commotion and attracted the attention of many cultivators in the dense forest. Of course, although their cultivation was quite good, it was impossible for them to face so many cultivators at the same time. On the other hand, Yao Xiangjuan was very calm. She only took 30% of the resources in the treasure, and then threw out all the 70% pills inside to attract the attention of the other cultivators. She took advantage of the chaos and left with Zhu Rui. This was the main reason why Zhu Rui was very grateful to Yao Xiangjuan. At that time, she was completely out of her wits. If Yao Xiangjuan wasn't there, not only would she have been robbed of all the pills, she might not even have been able to keep her life. Senior sister, I'm sorry to hear you say that. This time, the biggest credit is still yours. You should get more of it, Zhu Rui said uncomfortably. However, Yao Xiangjuan smiled gently and said, Junior sister, Zhu Rui, you're being too distant. You were the one who discovered the treasure land. Now that we're splitting it equally, I'm still the one who has the most benefits. Don't decline. Zhu Rui nodded when she saw Yao Xiangjuan's insistence. She knew that if she continued to refuse, it would only make Yao Xiangjuan unhappy. It was better to accept it openly. Seeing Zhu Rui accept it, Yao Xiangjuan was quite happy in her heart. Senior sister, I heard that Zhuowen killed LV Haotian before. Do you think it's true? Suddenly, Zhu Rui said such a sentence without rhyme or reason. Yao Xiangjuan fell into silence. After a while, she smiled and said, Although I don't know whether this rumor is true or not, if this is really done by Zhuowen, the credibility should be quite high. Zhu Rui curled her lips. She felt that Yao Xiangjuan trusted Zhuowen too much. She even believed this. LV Haotian was a powerhouse of life, enlightenment realm. He had mastered a higher level of power, mysterious life, divine power. He was not on the same level as the cultivators below Void Sky 9 Steps. Chapter 24:15. The joy of hunting Zhu Rui was already shocked when Zhuowen killed a half-step Void Sky 9 Step cultivator, but she could still accept it. However, the rumor that Zhuowen had killed Lu Haotian was too shocking. No matter how she comforted herself, she couldn't believe it. She was present when Zhuowen killed the half-step Void Sky 9th Step cultivator from the Lu Shrine. At that time, Zhuowen had used all of his skills and even suffered serious injuries to barely kill the half-step Void Sky 9th Step cultivator. If it was so strenuous to kill a half-step Void Sky 9th Step cultivator, how could it be possible to kill a life-enlightening realm cultivator? Even if Zhuowen had a great fortuitous encounter in the divine pill secret realm, it was impossible for him to kill a life-enlightening realm cultivator in such a short time. Zhu Rui's doubts were reasonable. Not only Zhu Rui, but many cultivators in the divine pill secret realm also doubted the authenticity of Zhuowen killing Lu Haotian. After all, the gap between a half-step Void Sky 9th Step cultivator and a life-enlightening realm cultivator was too big. Even if a life-enlightening realm cultivator wanted to kill a life-enlightening realm cultivator, it would be very difficult, unless it was a terrifying monster that was invincible in the same realm. Of course, if they knew that Zhuowen had schemed with the help of the Pill Emperor Turtle, the countless sea wolves of the Wolf God Lake, and the terrifying Wolf God to kill Lu Haotian, they wouldn't be so surprised. After all, the one who killed Lu Haotian wasn't Zhuowen, but the Wolf God that appeared with the help of the countless waves of the Wolf God Lake. Thump, thump, thump. The sound of a heartbeat suddenly resounded throughout the entire forest, as if there was an earthquake. This intense vibration immediately attracted the attention of the cultivators in the forest and the surrounding area. Then, all the cultivators subconsciously looked in the direction of the sound. Soon, they saw a scene that made them dumbfounded. What's going on? Zhu Rui frowned and asked subconsciously. Yao Xiangjuan's beautiful eyes changed slightly. She jumped up and looked towards the northern part of the forest, her face pale. In the northern part of the forest, there was a dense mass of black dots. Countless black dots were scurrying around the area, rushing towards the forest at an extremely fast speed. Behind these countless black dots, an enormous figure that was at least 300 meters tall walked over with large strides and firmly followed behind these black dots. Yao Xiangjuan's beautiful eyes landed on the giant's body. She found that the giant was covered in skeletal armor, and there was a skeletal helmet on its head. There was also a huge bone soared on its back. When Yao Xiangjuan's gaze landed on the giant seemed to sense it and slowly turned its head to look at Yao Xiangjuan. Their eyes met. Yao Xiangjuan's body trembled and her face turned pale. The moment their eyes met, she felt as if countless thunderbolts had exploded in her mind. She felt dizzy and was about to collapse at any time. Yao Xiangjuan hurriedly turned her head away. At this moment, Zhu Rui had already rushed to Yao Xiangjuan's side. When she saw the countless evil spirit army in the north, her face was filled with fear. These are evil spirits. Why are there so many of them? Zhu Rui's body trembled. She was too familiar with these evil spirits. When the life and death elixir of Death Valley was born, a gap was opened in the eastern part of Death Valley and countless evil spirits appeared. However, that was only a portion of the evil spirits in the eastern part of Death Valley. Although there were many of them, it was not far from the point of despair. However, it was different now. The number of evil spirits in the northern part of the forest was so great that it was possible to see them in a daze. The terrifying number was far beyond their imagination. The number of evil spirits that appeared in Death Valley was tens or even hundreds of times greater. A sense of despair that she had never felt before spread in Zhu Rui's heart. "Junior sister Zhu, let's go quickly. If we stay here, we will definitely die." Yao Xiangjuan immediately reacted. She then grabbed Zhu Rui's hand and fled towards the south without looking back. She knew that Palace Master Jingyan was in the south through the flower petals that she had given her. Now, the only person Yao Xiangjuan could rely on was Palace Master Jingyan. With so many evil spirits, she and Zhu Rui would definitely not be able to fend them off. They would only be cannon fodder if they went over. Not only Yao Xiangjuan and Zhu Rui, but all the cultivators in the forest also fled towards the south with fearful expressions. They could not understand why the evil spirits that had been trapped in Death Valley all this time would rush out at this moment. In particular, the 300-meter tall giant that was following behind them was emitting an evil aura. Even if they were thousands of miles away, they could still deeply feel it. This aura was like a large, sharp hand, firmly grasping their lifelines in the palm of its hand, causing the fear in their hearts to grow even stronger. The aura of a human cultivator is really sweet. I haven't tasted a human cultivator in a long time. Rakshasa King walked forward step by step. He was not in a hurry to chase after them. Instead, he just followed behind them. With his strength, it would be a piece of cake for him to catch up and kill all the cultivators in the forest. However, he did not do that. He was now enjoying the pleasure of hunting. It was like a cat catching a mouse. Generally, after a cat caught a mouse, it would not be in a hurry to eat it. Instead, it would first release the mouse and let it escape. The cat would then follow behind until it got tired of playing. Then it would catch the mouse again and start to enjoy the delicious taste of the mouse. Rakshasa King was currently enjoying the pleasure of hunting. When he got tired of it, he would make a move. Before he got tired of it, he would naturally let his evil spirit army make a move. He only needed to watch a good show from behind. Suddenly, the cultivators who were running at the back let out shrill screams. They were caught up by the evil spirits at the front and were then surrounded by countless evil spirits. The screams did not even last long before they immediately stopped. If one paid attention, those cultivators who were surrounded by evil spirits would soon turn into fleshless skeletons. The cultivators who were still running ahead felt their hearts turn cold when they detected this scene with their divine senses. Under the threat of death, the cultivators' speed was much faster than usual. However, this did not help at all because the evil spirit army was controlled by Rakshasa King. It was naturally easy for Rakshasa King to speed up these evil spirits. Therefore, the screams became more and more shrill and concentrated. The cultivators who fell behind were gradually being replaced by the evil spirit army and died. Meanwhile, the cultivators with higher cultivation bases who were at the front were all on tenterhooks. They wished that they had 7 or 8 legs now so that they could run faster. Yao Xiangjuan and Zhu Rui were at the front. Zhu Rui's cultivation base was ordinary, but Yao Xiangjuan was different. She was a genius of the 6 Desires Heavenly Palace and had many good things on her. Chapter 24:16. A Desperate Chase. Senior Apprentice Sister Yao, what should we do? The speed of these evil spirits seems to be increasing. On the flying divine artifact, Zhu Rui was on tenterhooks as she looked at the cultivators behind her who were constantly being eaten by the evil spirits. Her beautiful eyes were already filled with fear. Although Yao Xiangjuan had been concentrating on controlling the flying divine artifact, her divine sense was still paying attention to the rear. She had naturally noticed what Zhu Rui had said. She also noticed that every time the evil spirits killed a cultivator, the illusory heavenly bridge would be absorbed by the giant. The illusory sky bridge contained the essence of a cultivator's divine power. Clearly, this giant was absorbing the essence of the illusory sky bridge. Yao Xiangjuan felt a chill in her heart when she thought that if she was caught by the evil spirit, not only would her physical body be gnawed beyond recognition, even the illusory heavenly bridge in her body would be stripped out and devoured. Not only Yao Xiangjuan, but the cultivators running in front were also frightened, wishing that they could get as far away as possible. Unfortunately, their speed was limited, so how could they accomplish such a thing? As time went by, more and more cultivators died while the evil spirits behind them sped up. There were at least a few thousand cultivators who had escaped from the forest this time, but there were only about 100 of them left. Moreover, on the way to escape, there were naturally many cultivators who suffered this unexpected calamity and died under the suppression of the evil spirit army. Senior sister, these evil spirits are even faster than before. I'm afraid they'll catch up to us soon. Zhu Rui was trembling all over. Her face was pale and bloodless. She looked helplessly at Yao Xiangjuan, who was still controlling the flying divine artifact. Yao Xiangjuan sighed in her heart and said, Junior sister Zhu, don't be afraid. I've already used the communication talisman that Martial Uncle gave me. I believe that Martial Uncle will be here soon. Really? As long as the palace master is here, we will be saved. Zhu Rui's eyes shone with excitement. She knew that if Palace Master Jingyan came, then they would definitely be saved. In the southern region, which was extremely far away from the army of evil spirits, there was a desolate desert. On a small sand dune in the desert, a beautiful figure stood quietly. This beautiful figure's face was covered with a light veil, and behind her was a group of similarly dressed women. These women were all standing respectfully behind her. All of you enter my world of flowers first. I need to go rescue Ying Xiangjuan and the others. Palace Master Jingyan pointed her slender hand, and a blooming red lotus flower appeared. The dozen or so women behind her entered the flower without hesitation. Putting away the flower, Palace Master Jingyan stepped into the void and shot out like an arrow leaving a bow. Palace Master Jingyan she didn't know exactly what had happened in the north. When she received the message from Yao Xiangjuan, she knew that something must have happened to Yao Xiangjuan. Therefore, she was worried about Yao Xiangjuan's safety at this moment. Miserable screams continued to ring out, and the number of cultivators fleeing in front was indeed decreasing, while the dense sound of footsteps behind them was indeed getting closer. Save me! Save me! Suddenly, a blood-curdling scream resounded. The blue-robed man at the back had his right foot grabbed by an evil spirit at the front. The blue-robed man stomped his foot in an attempt to kick the evil spirit away. Unfortunately, the evil spirit's right hand grabbed the blue-robed man's foot tightly. No matter how the blue-robed man kicked, he couldn't kick the evil spirit away. It was precisely because of this evil spirit that the blue-robed man's speed was immediately slowed down and became extremely slow. This gave the other evil spirits a chance. They bared their fangs and brandished their claws as they pounced on the blue-robed man. They actually began to tear apart his flesh. Bastard! The blue-robed man's eyes turned red from the pain. He roared and immediately summoned the illusory sky bridge. Then the illusory sky bridge began to self-destruct. Rumble. The terrifying energy ripples produced by the illusory sky bridge's self-destruction suddenly spread out in all directions. Then the group of evil spirits at the front were blasted into countless pieces by this terrifying energy ripple. It was precisely this blue-robed man's self-destruction of the illusory sky bridge that slowed down the speed of the aggressive evil spirit army behind them. In just an instant, Yao Xiangjuan and the others pulled apart the distance between them and the evil spirit army. Thump, thump, thump. Behind them, the Rakshasa king narrowed her eyes and looked at the blue-robed man who had self-destructed the illusory sky bridge with extreme hostility. The Rakshasa king suddenly stretched out her right hand and pinched the ball of energy from the illusory sky bridge's self-destruction. Then she opened her bloody mouth and swallowed the terrifying, explosive energy in one gulp. The Rakshasa king's move naturally cleared away the obstacles in front of the evil spirit army, and the evil spirits continued to rush forward in a frenzy. Their speed was actually much faster than before. Where did that giant come from? He swallowed the illusory sky bridge's self-destruction, just like that? On the flying divine artifact, Zhu Wei looked at the illusory sky bridge that swallowed the blue-robed man's self-destruction as if nothing had happened. Her beautiful eyes involuntarily widened. The blue-robed man's cultivation was not weak. He had already reached the peak of the 7th step void sky realm. The illusory sky bridge's self-destruction was enough to kill an 8th step void sky realm cultivator. Even a half-step 9th step void sky realm cultivator could cause a lot of trouble for him. But now, the giant directly swallowed the illusory sky bridge's self-destruction as if nothing had happened. Zhu Rui instantly knew that the giant's strength was at least at the life enlightenment realm. It might even be stronger. Thinking of this, Zhu Rui's heart became even more panicked. She did not expect that such a terrifying creature would exist in the divine pill secret realm. Ah, ah, ah. Another 3 wretched cries rang out. Behind Yao Xiangjuan, 3 more cultivators were caught up by the evil spirits and torn into countless pieces. The 3 cultivators did not even have the time to self-destruct their illusory bridges before dying. Logically speaking, it only took a thought to self-destruct the illusory sky bridge. It was impossible for them to die before they could even self-destruct the illusory sky bridge. Yao Xiangjuan noticed this problem and could not help but look behind her. She immediately saw the mockery and indifference in the giant's eyes. Yao Xiangjuan's heart skipped a beat. She knew that the reason the 3 cultivators did not have time to self-destruct the illusory sky bridge was probably related to this giant. After 10 breaths of time, the last cultivator behind Yao Xiangjuan also let out a miserable scream and was completely drowned by countless evil spirits.